Chapter 1744. Wang Muyu's affectionate dad could be said to be deafening, and Wang Ling couldn't help shuddering all over when he heard it. Super Chen stared blankly at the scene in front of him, stupefied. It seemed like a dream, but for some reason, it seemed so real this time. Furthermore, Super Chen remembered that he had already been kidnapped. It couldn't have been a dream, could it? After all, Old Antique, Old Pan and Hirogua had also been captured. Previously, Super Chen hadn't known the purpose of the person who had brought them here. Now, combined with the scene in front of him, Super Chen was instantly enlightened. He couldn't help letting his imagination run wild as he looked at Wang Ling with an indescribable crafty expression on his face. Lingzi, you're usually so quiet, but it turns out that you've directly given birth to a child. Do you want to amaze everyone? Wang Ling opened his mouth and wanted to explain. He looked at Wang Muyu and tried to use his eyes to coerce the little one into clarifying the situation. But how could Wang Muyu give up? He just looked at Super Chen with his bright eyes. You don't like this name? Then I'll call you Daddy from now on. Daddy. Wang Ling. Lotus Sun. Super Chen, listen to me, it's not what you think. Super Chen spread his hands and sighed again as he directly cut her off. Lotus Sun, I know. Did Wang Ling pue you? Lotus Sun. Then he looked at Wang Ling again. I could tell that Wang Ling liked you long ago. Even if he doesn't admit it now, he'll admit it later. It's just that I didn't expect him to directly have a child behind our backs. That face is exactly like Wang Ling's. That's a King Hammer. Don't tell me this child isn't Wang Ling's. Even if it's a genetic mutation, it's hard for it to suddenly look like Wang Ling. Before he could finish speaking, Super Chen felt his head sink as if something had hit it hard, and he passed out again. The person who had done this was Death Heavenly Dao. As the Heavenly Dao that controlled death, when Super Chen had said this, Death Heavenly Dao had already sensed a death omen overflowing from him. Thus, he promptly used a karate chop to help Super Chen fall asleep. Because he vaguely felt that Wang Ling couldn't hold back and was about to make a move, he had made the first move. Otherwise, it would have been hard to say what would have happened to Super Chen. There's no other way. We can only take it one step at a time. Death Heavenly Dao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In my humble opinion, I can only ask Miss Rong and Ling Zhenren to think of a way to raise this little one first. Wang Ling turned his head to look at the golden lamp and did his best to make faces at it. He swore he had never made so many expressions in his life. Monk Jin Deng understood and hurriedly nodded as he volunteered to step forward and say, "This is bad for both Ling Zhenren and Miss Rong. If word of this gets out, people will be afraid of gossip. Why don't this penniless monk take care of him first?" Hearing this, Wang Muyu frowned deeply with a clear expression of disgust on his face. But when that incomparably tender little face scrunched up, it was like a little bun, which made him look even cuter. Jin Deng wanted to protect him, but he clung to Lotus Sun's neck and wouldn't come down no matter what. No, I want to be with Mom and Dad. I'm not going anywhere." Afraid that he would hurt Lotus Sun and Wang Muyu if he pulled too hard, Jin Deng had no choice but to let go in the end. This little one who had popped up out of nowhere was indeed very tricky to deal with. Forget it. How about, just leave it to me? In the end, Lotus Sun took the initiative to speak up. She felt that she had to take the blame for this matter. After all, if she hadn't been thinking about Wang Ling during the mission, the system in the heaven-level laboratory wouldn't have been able to extract that part of Wang Muyu's memory and make a copy of Wang Ling's appearance. How can we do this, Rong? Wang Ming firmly objected to this. This isn't your or Ling Ling's fault. It's this little guy's fault for randomly recognizing his parents. Besides, you're a girl. If those gossip reporters get a picture of you with this little one, sooner or later there will be problems. So I have a compromise. Thus, Lotus Sun looked at Wang Muyu and asked tentatively, "Muyu, are you willing to follow Great-Grandpa?" Great-Grandpa? Mom's grandfather? Wang Muyu's small eyes suddenly twinkled. Wang Muyu crossed his arms and thought for a bit, then nodded. I'm willing. You agree just like that? Lotus Sun was surprised. She hadn't expected Wang Muyu to be so easy to talk to. But I have a condition. Mom and Dad have to visit me at Great-Grandpa's place every few days. All right, Lotus Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wang Ling also sighed. There was no other way. He just didn't know what Old Man Sun thought about this. Will it work? Hand the little one over to Old Man Sun? Wang Ming was also very curious about this. Lotus Sun thought for a bit and smiled. I think it's possible. I even think they might get along very well. Monday, December 29th. It had already been a few days since the dragon descendants had harassed him. Wang Ling seemed to have returned to his normal life, but he knew that this wasn't the end. Wang Muyu's existence was a big problem. Furthermore, he had a feeling that everything that happened next would revolve around Wang Muyu. Currently, Old Man Sun was taking care of the little one, and Wang Ling heard that their relationship was indeed quite harmonious. Back to the day when Lotus Sun brought Wang Muyu to Old Man Sun. When they met, Old Man Sun thought that Wang Muyu was Wang Ling's younger brother, and that he would be able to get some information about Wang Ling from Wang Muyu. So he smiled like a peach blossom. Of course, the most nervous thing was that Wang Muyu had called Lotus Sun Mom, in front of Old Man Sun at an inappropriate time, which almost made Lotus Sun kneel down. In the end, Old Man Sun was a thick-skinned person, and actually didn't think there was anything wrong with it at all. Grandpa, why do you look so happy? Lotus Sun asked. What's there to be angry about? This little one is only 6 years old. What does he know? A child's words carry no harm. Old Man Sun hugged Wang Muyu happily. In any case, you're my granddaughter. Do you think I don't know if you're in trouble or not? You've always been clean and self-respecting. I'm very relieved. Hearing this, Lotus Sun heaved a slight sigh of relief. Won't that be troublesome, Grandpa? Don't worry, the little one won't disturb you for long. He's always liked alchemy, so he wants to play at our house for a couple of days. Tisk, just because of this? Look at how nervous you are. Old Man Sun slapped his thigh. It's fine. You can stay as long as you want. You're usually busy studying, so having this little one to relieve my boredom is perfect. Besides, I feel like I've hit it off with this little one at first sight. Hey, when you grow up and get married in the future, if you give birth to such a cute little one, this old man will wake up laughing in my dreams. He hugged Wang Muyu and lifted him high. Little one, you like alchemy, right? No problem. Grandpa will personally teach you how to refine it. On the same day, Wang Muyu refined 7 mysterious elixirs with the power of giant dragons. Later, these 7 elixirs became known as the 7 Dragon Balls. Chapter 1745. Although he had already made an agreement with Wang Muyu, the truth was that Wang Ling had no intention of taking care of the baby. It was almost time for the final exams, and it was time for the annual crucial test to keep his grades down. There was no way he could ignore his studies and take care of the baby. Besides, this child really wasn't his. It was just that he looked exactly the same as him. But because he had already made an agreement with Wang Muyu, Wang Ling thought that on the day it was his turn to visit Wang Muyu, he might be able to send a clone over. In the end, the little one had already seen through his true intentions, and had asked Lotus Sun several days in advance to tell Wang Ling not to send a clone to fool him. Otherwise he would directly go to Huagua Water Curtain Group's TV station, and broadcast to the world that he was Wang Ling's son. Wang Ling was immediately alarmed when he heard this. This little guy actually dared to threaten him. He had never been threatened by anyone since he was a child. It was always him who was the one being threatened. Did this little one really not care if he blew up in anger and destroyed the entire earth? On second thought, Wang Ling felt that maybe Wang Muyu really didn't care, because the genes and cells in his body had come from the dragon race to begin with, and the dragon race's greatest wish was to regain their position as the overlord of the universe and get rid of all the inferior creatures. Of course, the happiest person in this matter, and the person who benefited the most, was probably Lotus Sunday. This was because she and Wang Ling had been texting more frequently in the last few days. Each time, Wang Ling would take a long time to reply, and even when he did reply, it was just a series of ellipses or a few words. But because of Wang Muyu, Lotus Sun felt that she and Wang Ling had finally found a way to communicate with each other besides crispy noodle snacks and learning. On the way to school, she texted Wang Ling again. Classmate Wang Ling, Muyu is actually just a child, and doesn't have any bad intentions. Grandpa says he's very sensible. He also gets along well with him. I'll be taking care of Muyu tomorrow, so I'll leave him to classmate Wang Ling the day after tomorrow. In any case, we're only going once a week. It won't take up much time. As for where to take him to play, classmate Wang Ling, don't worry, I'll arrange it. After seeing Lotus Sun send 3 lines of text in a row, Wang Ling stared at the phone screen and finally sighed. He gave a simple reply. Looking up at the sky, he thought about it carefully and felt that this might be the helplessness of an immortal king. When he arrived at class, he found that it was especially quiet today. Super Chun, Hirogwa, Little Peanut. These people who had been caught by Jingza earlier in the morning all had muddle-headed expressions on their faces. Wang Ling judged that this probably wasn't an after-effect of erasing memories. Now that Wang Ming had fused with the God Brain, it was very reliable for him to use brainwaves to erase memories in a targeted manner, without any damage. So what's going on with these people? It's like they haven't woken up. After Wang Ling sat down, he saw Hirogwa suddenly look at him. Do you know, Lingzi, I think I had a very strange dream yesterday. Wang Ling? ? Hirogwa. I dreamed that I killed a dragon yesterday, then cut open its belly and took out a dragon egg. And inside the dragon egg it was actually you. As soon as he said this, Lotus Sun, who was sitting in front of him, choked on her water and started coughing. Yes, it's because of this dream that I can't wake up at all. It's said that having more dreams is a sign of unstable sleep quality. If you don't have any dreams, your sleep quality will be higher, said Hirogwa. When he said this, Little Peanut also hurriedly picked up the conversation. You had the same dream? I had the same dream. But I dreamed that it was classmate Lotus Sun inside the dragon egg. Good heavens, you have Wang Ling and Lotus Sun. Isn't that a pair of twins? Super Chin dropped his forehead into his hand. I'm a pair of twins, everyone. Hirogwa rubbed his chin. That is to say, everyone had a similar type of dream? So what on earth is going on? There's nothing strange about it. We usually study together, and when we're more familiar with each other, there's indeed a certain chance that we'll share a dream in a different bed. Little Peanut pushed up his glasses and said, or maybe this is the legendary dream linkage. Wang Ling. Gottlieb dream linkage. That's true, but I keep feeling that this dream is hinting at something. Super Chin rubbed his head. For some reason, the back of his neck had been hurting since the day before yesterday, as if it had been hit by a truck. He gave Wang Ling a meaningful look, then said half-jokingly, Say, this guy Wang Ling usually doesn't say anything. Don't tell me he's secretly become someone else's father behind our backs? Wang Ling felt that this memory erasure wasn't very reliable. If necessary, he had to find an opportunity to do it again. The matter of Bao Bai Group's dragon graveyard seemed to have come to an end, but it was in fact far from over. After Clean Swamp's evacuation, all the employees of Bao Bai Group had also left, and the entire group had collapsed overnight. However, everyone in Battle Sect was well aware that the mastermind behind the scenes, Bai Zhe, was still lurking in the dark and controlling the overall situation. Furthermore, he had left behind Wang Muyu, a ticking time bomb for the Dragon Clan. It had to be said that Bai Zhe's way of handling things had become a lot more steady and cunning compared to his previous style of leading the charge head-on. He no longer rashly relied on his confidence to directly launch an attack with his physical body. Instead, he was truly hiding behind the scenes and carrying out all the arrangements in secret. At that moment, a number of surgeries were being carried out on Battle Sect's Grotto Heaven Peak. These were all Bao Bai's employees who had been brought back alive from the dragon graveyard. Most of them had either been evacuated or had been cursed to death by Bai Zhe's Dragon Clan magic from afar. Their souls had been destroyed, and even the heavenly law of death had no record of them. Resurrection was impossible. Beep. With the drawn-out warning sound of the ventilator, one of the last 3 survivors in the dragon graveyard couldn't hold on any longer and died first. Wang Ming sighed. He hadn't saved these 3 people to get any information from them, but had saved them purely out of humanitarian considerations. In the end, he hadn't expected Bai Zhe to be so ruthless. This dragon curse is indeed amazing. These 3 people have already used the death substitute talismans that Ling Zhenren gave them, but their souls are still fading away. Death Heavenly Dao said with a frown. There were only so many methods and techniques for resurrection. In the end, it was because the dragon curse on these Bao Bai employees was too peculiar. Dragon clan magic was very different from orthodox cultivation magic, and couldn't be judged by common sense. Thus, even Wang Ling's death substitute talismans might not necessarily work, and could only delay their deaths. Of course, if Wang Ling had to take action, forcibly saving these people wasn't impossible. But birth, old age, sickness, and death were all part of human destiny. Going against the heavens was a violation of the heavenly Tao. Even if Wang Ling was a whitelist user, the balance of fate still existed. These three people didn't have any connection with Wang Ling's life. If he forcibly saved them, then three other people in the world might accidentally die. I don't know how long the remaining two can last. It'll all depend on their luck. Deaf Heavenly Tao said helplessly, then turned to look at Wang Ming. Mr. Ming, are you ready? Don't worry about me, it's just a minor surgery. Wang Ming waved his hand and smiled. His main purpose in coming to Immortal Toya's Heavenly Cave Peak today was to cooperate with Immortal Toya in creating a new body with the Immortal Lotus Root, and to transfer the part of Shoucheng's soul in his mind to the Immortal Lotus Root. This was the agreement he had made with Shoucheng. And now, it was time for him to fulfill his promise. Chapter 1746. Wooden Fish was a homonym for Wang Muyu's name. At the very beginning, she had discovered it when she had typed in Wang Muyu's name using the 9-grid input method. She had suddenly felt that calling him Wooden Fish was even cuter, so she had kept calling him that. In Battle Sect, Wang Muyu's appearance was a huge surprise. Some people called him Tiny Dot, while others followed Lotus Sun's lead and called him Wooden Fish or Little Wooden Fish. Generally speaking, everyone was very polite to Wang Muyu. They realized that when Wang Muyu put away his rainbow dragon horns and tail these days, his face looked even more like Wang Ling's. Of course, the reason why everyone was so polite wasn't just because he looked like Wang Ling. It was also because most of them realized that they couldn't beat Wang Muyu. Just as the rumors said, Old Man Sun and Wang Muyu had been getting along very well in the last few days. For some reason, the more Sunny Yuan looked at Wang Muyu, the more he liked him. Especially after Wang Muyu refined the 7 Dragon Balls. It was even more so. Sunny Yuan still remembered when he had refined the 7 Dragon Balls back then. The entire pill furnace had shone with a myriad of multicolored lights, and the spirit power that had overflowed in all directions had instantly filled the entire pill room, giving Sunny Yuan a fright. When it came to refining pills, luck actually played a part in whether one succeeded or failed. He had never thought that a 6-year-old child could actually be so talented. As expected of classmate Wang Ling's little brother. As expected of a natural mascot. Later, after Sunny Yuan appraised these 7 elixirs, he discovered that each of these 7 elixirs had actually reached the pinnacle level. Furthermore, there was actually a special unknown substance in the pills. Sunny Yuan cut off a small portion of the pills for experimentation. According to the results, this unknown substance was a spirit power amplification substance that could greatly increase a cultivator's spirit power after taking it, and had the powerful effect of helping cultivators break through bottlenecks. Furthermore, it was extremely effective, surpassing any similar type of pill currently on the market. For a cultivator, nothing was more painful than being stuck at the same realm for a long time without being able to advance. If this pill could be mass-produced in the future, it would be of great benefit to Huagua Water Curtain Group's development. Little Wooden Fish, you've done well. Sunny Yuan was overjoyed. He immediately decided to name this new Dan 7 Dragon Wooden Fish Dan. On the other hand, Wang Muyu clearly didn't know much about his normal performance and normal operation. He just looked at the 7 dazzling pills in front of him innocently. Little Wooden Fish, what reward do you want? Grandpa can even reward you, Sunny Yuan said as he rubbed the small wooden fish's head. Then Wang Muyu stared at the pill in front of her. Holding her hands together, she closed her eyes and made a wish. Wooden Fish? What are you thinking about? I'm making a wish. Oh, what wish? I hope Daddy and Mommy can accompany me more, Wang Muyu said. Her pitiful and soft voice instantly broke Sun Yuan's defense. The thing that old people couldn't stand the most was being moved. The older they got, the less they cried. Why? How could there be such a cute and sensible little fellow in this world? Sunny Yuan was so moved that he covered his old face as tears streamed down his face. At that moment, he suddenly realized that he actually didn't regard Wang Muyu as an outsider at all, but really did regard Wang Muyu as his own little grandson. Wooden fish, you'll definitely have a lot of people to love you in the future. He picked Wang Muyu up and gently kissed his pink cheek. Wang Muyu felt a little itchy when he brushed his stubble. Ahahaha, it's so itchy, great-grandpa. In the end, Sunny Yuan instantly felt his heart melt at this cry. All in all, Wang Muyu was a very likable child. At least, that was what the people who had come into contact with Wang Muyu thought. Sunny Yuan was happy and didn't feel tired at all. No matter what Wang Muyu asked for, he would do his best to satisfy him. What bad intentions could little wooden fish have? He was just a 6-year-old child who didn't even know who his daddy and mommy were. How cute. Just like when Sunny Yuan had first met Wang Ling, the more he looked at Wang Muyu, the more he liked him. Of course, liking him was one thing. In addition to taking Wang Muyu with him, Old Man Sun didn't forget to carry out his own mission in secret. Since Wang Muyu was Wang Ling's younger brother, whether he was a cousin or a relative, he definitely knew something about Wang Ling. In the first few days he had taken care of Wang Muyu, Sunny Yuan had refrained from asking too many questions. Now that his relationship with Wang Muyu had gradually warmed up, Sunny Yuan felt that this was the best time for him to ask questions. Well, wooden fish, what kind of person do you think Big Brother Wang? Oh no, I should say your daddy Wang Ling is. Sunny Yuan said. He's a good person, Wang Muyu said. And he's really amazing. He can kill a dragon with one palm. Really? Sunny Yuan rubbed his chin as he tried to figure out what Wang Muyu meant. Wang Ling could kill a dragon with one palm? What did that mean? It couldn't be literal. There were no dragons in this world. Moreover, everyone knew that Wang Ling was just a mascot. How could he be so strong? How could he really kill a dragon? So Sunny Yuan immediately deduced that Wang Muyu was probably talking about some game. Combined with Wang Ling's outstanding performance in the video game city, it made sense that he was labeled good at games. So that was it. Student Wang Ling liked to play games? This was a useful piece of information. Sunny Yuan felt that he needed to personally issue a board order to all the major gaming companies that worked with him to monitor Wang Ling's game accounts in real time. As long as it was a game that Wang Ling played, no matter what game gift packs or point cards it was, all of them had to be filled up in one go. Not only that, Sunny Yuan also felt that Wang Ling should also be given special privileges for card games. For example, the probability of a normal account drawing a gold card was 1%, while Wang Ling's was 99% or something. After getting some useful information, Sunny Yuan nodded with satisfaction. He hugged Wang Muyu and asked, "Then wooden fish, what do you think Sister Lotus Sun? Oh no, I should say your Mama Lotus Sun, thinks of your daddy Wang Ling?" Ha ha ha, Mama's mind is full of daddy, otherwise she wouldn't have given birth to me. Wang Muyu replied with a smile. While Sunny Yuan was pondering Wang Muyu's answer, Jiang Xiaoche, who was about to push open the door to the chairman's office, heard this conversation and was completely petrified. The error-free chapters of the daily life of the Immortal King will continue to be updated on the new C-Book Pavilion. There will be no advertisements on the site, so please collect and recommend the new C-Book Pavilion. If you like the daily life of the Immortal King, please collect. The daily life of the Immortal King is updated the fastest in the C-Book Pavilion. Chapter 1747. At the door, in the end, Jiang Xiaoche didn't have the guts to push open the door and enter. He had come to find Sunny Yuan this time to confirm the matter of the border resource donation. In order to ensure that the border cultivation soldiers who defended the country had sufficient stamina and nutrition, Huagua Water Curtain Group had donated 10 tons of resources to the various border areas in the first round. Each elixir was only a dozen or so grams, so 10 tons was impressively a large number. Border defense was a matter of great importance and couldn't be sloppy. Supplies had to be sent in time. There was a very popular saying online. When I was eating white rice and drinking Coca-Cola, I couldn't figure out why these strong soldiers would die. I woke up in the middle of the night and suddenly remembered that they had died for me. As a financially strong domestic enterprise in Huaxiao Nation, Huaguo Water Curtain Group had naturally never fallen behind in the work of donating supplies to the border areas over the years. Furthermore, these supplies had always gone through the Green Channel, and there was no need to report to the higher-ups. As long as the supplies were ready, they could immediately be sent out for the handover. But according to normal business procedures, Jiang Xiaoqie still had to talk to Sun Yiyuan about it. It was just that he never thought he would actually hear a big secret that made his soul explode. At this time, everyone in the company was already gone, and almost no one could enter the floor of the chairman's office. Come to think of it, old man Sun himself had been a little careless. He hadn't expected Jiang Xiaoqie to suddenly come looking for him at this time. As Jiang Xiaoqie listened to the conversation in the room, he was petrified for a moment. He felt like even his breathing had stopped. After several minutes, it was his legs that reacted first, and he hurriedly fled Huaguo Building. Then he was petrified in the car for several more minutes. Eldest miss, had a child? And it was Wang Ling's? His mind was full of black question mark emojis and old grandpa looking at his phone on the subway, emojis. He had indeed heard recently that old man Sun hadn't been in and out of the company regularly recently because he had to keep a child company. Jiang Xiaoqie had thought that the child was a relative of the Sun family. Who would have thought that it was actually eldest Mrs.? So when he learned this big secret, Jiang Xiaoqie had to admit that he had been stunned. Or to be more accurate, he had been frightened. I thought that secretly giving birth to a child would only shock everyone in the chaotic entertainment industry. But in the end, it actually happened to me? No matter what, this was a big deal. Furthermore, this was definitely an earth-shattering scandal for Huaguo Water Curtain Group. If it was exposed, Jiang Xiaoqie didn't dare to imagine how much the stock price would plummet the next day. Good Lord! Wang Ling, I never thought you'd slip up and let me know about this. Jiang Xiaoqie's thoughts were whirling at that moment. As an employee of the company, he naturally didn't want this matter to be exposed, because it would also affect his work. But from the perspective of a love rival, as well as the various grudges left behind, he really couldn't wait to catch the tail end of this matter and see Wang Ling's panicked expression after being caught red-handed. However, to get to that point, it was useless to just rely on his words. He needed sufficient evidence to support it. Then he quickly changed to a new private car, parked the car at the foot of the Huaguo Building, and waited for Sun Yiyuan to come out. He took out his phone and remotely manipulated all the surveillance cameras at the entrance of the Huaguo Building in an attempt to capture Wang Muyu's face from multiple angles. It wasn't long before Sun Yiyuan drove his own car out of the underground parking lot. Because he had been taking care of the baby for the past 2 days, Sun Yiyuan hadn't let Jiang Xiaoqie be his driver. Initially, Jiang Xiaoqie had been very puzzled, because in all the years he had known Sun Yiyuan, the old man had rarely driven himself. But now everything made sense. The person sitting in the car with him now was his great-grandson. How could they be treated the same? In just a few short seconds, the car passed through all the surveillance cameras, and Jiang Xiaoqie's phone immediately synced with thousands of high-definition photos taken in those few seconds. But most of the photos were useless, because the car had a reflective camouflage structure, and it was impossible to see what the inside of the car looked like from the outside. But Jiang Xiaoqie's luck wasn't bad, because recently, a reflective camouflage camera had been installed outside the Huaguo Building. In the end, from the thousands of photos, Jiang Xiaoqie finally managed to capture Wang Muyu's profile. After seeing Wang Muyu's face clearly, his hands couldn't help trembling. These familiar dead fish eyes, and this familiar face. Wasn't this Wang Ling? Even if he had only taken half a picture of Wang Ling's profile, Jiang Xiaoqie could immediately superimpose Wang Muyu's face on Wang Ling's. This already couldn't be said to be evidence. Instead, it was a real iron hammer. Good Lord Wang Ling. If you don't die this time, I, Jiang Xiaoqie, will write my name backwards. Songhai City's Duobao City was Songhai City's largest market for cheap second-hand magic treasures. A lot of people could buy the second-hand magic treasures they wanted here, and even pick up some top-notch goods at very low prices. Jiang Xiaoqie was also one of Duobao City's old members, but in fact, apart from trading second-hand magic treasures, Duobao City also had a secret information trading channel that only the old members knew about. After putting on a mask and cloak for disguise, Jiang Xiaoche entered a secret passage hidden in a small alley in Duobao City. After confirming the password, he went to the underground information trading market. "I want to release a piece of information," Jiang Xiaoche said mysteriously in front of the trading window, and then handed over the photo he had taken. "I wonder how much this information is worth." This was a photo that Jiang Xiaoche had already edited. Only Wang Muyu's profile was in it, and Old Man Sun's part had been cut out. "It's just a child. How much can it be worth?" The boss in charge of acquiring information was nicknamed Tengu. Dressed in a suit and leather shoes and wearing a Jason mask, he was wiping a glass of red wine in front of the counter. Glancing at the photo, he asked disinterestedly, "A child born in secret after a 16-year-old boy forced himself on a young girl. Oh, that's a little interesting." Staring at the photo, Tengu pondered for a bit, then looked at Jiang Xiaoche and said unhurriedly, "This information is worth 20 million. So much? Boss, aren't you going to ask who this boy is?" "That's what we do. How can we not know who he is?" Tengu smiled. "If you agree, we can arrange the transfer right away, but you have to leave the photo." "Of course." Jiang Xiaoche revealed a smile. "As long as I can ruin that person's reputation, I don't mind even if I don't want the money." 10 minutes later, the transaction was completed. A sum of 20 million was directly transferred to Jiang Xiaoche's private account abroad. "Then, thank you for your patronage. I hope you can provide better information next time." Tengu looked at Jiang Xiaoche's departing back and smiled meaningfully. "Boss, this photo is worth 20 million? After he left, a puzzled manservant came forward and asked, "It's just a photo, of course not. But do you know who the person who just left is?" "Who is it?" "Jiang Xiaoche." Tengu smiled. "He's the Secretary General under Sun Yiyuan, the chairman of Huaguo Water Curtain Group. And according to investigations, he's always had a good impression of his family's young miss. If I'm not wrong, the child in the photo he provided this time is the child born to his family's young miss, and that 16-year-old boy. That young miss has a child. A rich young miss of a large corporation gave birth to an illegitimate child. Isn't the value of this information much higher than that 16-year-old boy giving birth?" Under the mask, Tengu smiled slightly. "But this matter still lacks conclusive evidence. Immediately send someone to follow that young miss. Let's see if we can find any clues. If there's solid evidence, I believe that this information will definitely interest many business bosses." Chapter 1748. For Tengu, this was a huge deal that was hard to come by, and the explosive news was enough to shock the entire cultivation world's business circle, comparable to an earthquake with a magnitude of more than 10. On the surface, the fact that a young lady of a financial group had given birth to a child before marriage was shocking enough. But on a deeper level, the child in the photo looked to be 5 or 6 years old. If it really was Lotus Sun's child, then she must have taken some drug that could accelerate the pregnancy in a short period of time. "Boss, do you think Huaguo Water Curtain Group used drugs?" "No way. Don't underestimate the ugly faces of these capitalists." Tengu chuckled. "According to my deduction, their goal should be to use accelerated pregnancy to confuse the time when this young lady really gave birth. Of course, I don't have any evidence right now, so there's plenty of material to dig up. If we succeed, we'll make a lot of money." "Same old method?" the manservant asked. "Yes." Tengu nodded. "Send a copy of this scandalous information to all parties. Other than Huaguo Water Curtain Group's competing companies, Huaguo Water Curtain Group has to send a copy too. Then let them bid for the information, and the highest bidder wins." "Yes." The manservant nodded. "I'll arrange it right away. Wait." Just as the subordinate was about to leave, Tengu suddenly called out to him. "Anything else, boss? Remember to be polite when you invite Miss Lotus Sunday. After all, we're not bandits." "Yes. Also, have the intelligence confirmation team use our newly equipped global facial tracking system when they go looking for her." Tengu laughed. "This is the work of that famous scientist, Teacher Shouchong. I queued up for a long time to order it. Now that I finally have this opportunity, let's do an experiment. Yes. The Underground Intelligence Network had its own confirmation team to verify the authenticity of all the information that passed through Myriad Treasure City's underground intelligence black market. The bigger the matter, the more careful the confirmation. After receiving Tengu's order, the confirmation team immediately entered Lotus Sun's facial recognition data according to the plan, and used the custom-made system from Shochong to conduct a global tracking. The black van followed the navigation of the GPS and drove across the ring highway. After a few twists and turns, it finally arrived in front of an affordable apartment. Strange, why would the young miss of Huagua Water Curtain Group live in such a place? In the intelligence team, the old driver stopped the car and asked suspiciously while drinking goji berry tea. His name was Wolf, and he was responsible for leading the way. Master Shochong said that this face tracking system combines big data intelligence to track people. It's connected to every surveillance camera in the world, allowing for real-time positioning and accurate tracking. There's basically no mistake. At that moment, a person called Silver Fox in the intelligence confirmation group said. He was the leader of the confirmation team, and the person in charge of inviting Lotus Sun for a talk. With his trust in the face recognition system, Silver Wolf still brought another group member named Kangaroo down the bus. Holding the iPad in his hand, he finally arrived in front of a security door. They had already changed into white coats for camouflage and wore stethoscopes on their chests. They looked like doctors from the clinic. Confirming intelligence was their main job. And there were many ways to confirm intelligence. They didn't necessarily have to find the person directly and ask for the details. Instead, they had to use roundabout methods to obtain information and confirm intelligence. This was Silver Wolf's usual practice. Just like his code name, he was full of the aura of an old fox. It's inside. Silver Wolf frowned, then quickly controlled the expression on his face, and very politely reached out to press the doorbell. Before long, a girl's voice came from behind the security door. Who is it? It was Jiang Yingying herself. She was doing her homework, and her face was flushed because there was a high school biology class at school today. As a young girl in puberty, her imagination ran wild while she was doing her homework. But she hadn't expected that at that moment, the doorbell would suddenly ring at an untimely time, interrupting all her thoughts. Because of her previous experience, Jiang Yingying was very cautious this time. She didn't open the door carelessly, but tried to confirm the other party's identity through the peephole. At that moment, standing in front of her door were two young men in white coats with stethoscopes. They didn't look like bad guys, but she still didn't choose to open the door. Silver Wolf couldn't help but feel a little amused by her vigilant attitude. But for an old hand who confirmed the authenticity of intelligence through fraud, even if there was a security door between them, and even if they didn't open the door, it wouldn't be a problem for him. Of course, the first thing he had to do was to confirm the other party's identity. Silver Wolf thought for a while. He didn't directly ask for the other party's name. Because he and Kangaroo were both disguised as community doctors, if he directly asked for the other party's name, it would definitely cause more alarm, and it wouldn't be good for his work of swindling intelligence. So after thinking for a while, Silver Wolf narrowed his eyes and smiled. Hello, Mississippi. We are the community doctors in the area. Please don't be afraid. Think about it, your grandfather is so powerful, we don't have the guts. Hearing this, Jiang Yingying secretly nodded. Her grandfather was indeed powerful. That was Marshal St. Jiang. Since these two community doctors knew about this, they didn't seem to be bad guys. It's good that you know. Jiang Yingying snorted. After saying this, Silver Wolf also made a note in his small notebook. During the questioning, the other party admitted that she had a very powerful grandfather. On the other side, Kangaroo also used a magic treasure to see through the security door and see Jiang Yingying's face in her pajamas. Then Kangaroo nodded and made an okay gesture to Silver Wolf. Silver Wolf then made a note in his small notebook. Kangaroo used a magic treasure to secretly confirm that the girl behind the security door is indeed Lotus Sun. After a moment of silence, Silver Wolf heard Jiang Yingying ask again. Then why did you come to see me now? I just wanted to ask a simple question, Silver Wolf said. Our community clinic has always paid attention to the physiological knowledge and health of young people. I wonder what this lady thinks about giving birth before marriage. His question sounded like a routine question, but he added a few tricks to it. For example, he purposely magnified the words premarital birth. When she heard these words, Jiang Yingying's face immediately turned red. This is definitely not good. How can there be such a thing? So, Silver Wolf made another note in his small notebook. Combined with Kangaroo's synchronized X-ray observation data, during the questioning, when the words giving birth before marriage were mentioned, the other party's movements were unnatural, her eyes were unfocused, and her face was flushed. These are typical signs of lying. After writing this, Silver Wolf closed his notebook. He was almost done asking, and now it was time to make his move. He put away his notebook, took out a bottle of green liquid from his pocket, and poured it all over the security door. Chapter 1749. The gold-devouring bug was originally a kind of microscopic creature that appeared in ancient tombs. It was born in a special geographical environment, and was extremely afraid of light. The first to develop the gold-devouring bug and commercialize it was a famous construction company in the cultivation circle called Casio Heavy Industries. This was a construction company from Mishio Nation, and was also the first to use genetic technology to restructure the gold-devouring bug's genes, making them easy to tame and manipulate. As long as a smart device locked onto a specific block, the gold-devouring bug could quickly swarm up and devour all the metal. Currently, the gold-devouring bug was also mostly used in demolition and other work in the cultivation world. Its advantage was that it was environmentally friendly and pollution-free, and it wouldn't produce excessive smoke or dust. But at the same time, it had a flaw, and that was that the metal eaten by the gold-devouring bug couldn't be recycled. So now, the gold-devouring bug was also used in rescue operations to break down doors. Of course, there was a tendency for the gold-devouring bug to be used by criminals in the cultivation world. Like now, for example, Silver Fox was well versed in the art of swindling people. He was extremely confident in the information he had just extracted, and firmly believed that the person in the room was Lotus Sun herself. Why would a rich young miss of a financial group live in this kind of unremarkable affordable apartment? There was only one answer in Silver Fox's eyes. That was this place. This was the dwelling of this young lady and her sweetheart. That had to be it. After the gold-devouring bug silently devoured the entire metal security door, Jiang Yingying suddenly panicked at the sight of the clinic doctor, who had suddenly appeared in front of her. Who on earth are you? No matter how stupid she was, she knew at that moment that these were two intruders, and they definitely weren't some so-called community clinic doctor. She tried to shout, but Silver Fox moved very quickly. He just made a shushing gesture at the corner of his mouth, and Jiang Yingying instantly felt as if an invisible force had gripped her throat, and she couldn't say anything. This was the most basic silence curse. Because he often used it, Silver Fox had already cultivated it to the highest level. Not only could he instantly and precisely mute someone, he could also launch a group silence curse within a 10-kilometer radius. Without dispelling the curse, the victim would be rendered speechless for 10 hours and wouldn't be able to make the slightest sound. Miss Sun, I'm sorry. We would like to ask you to come with us. At that moment, Silver Wolf took the initiative to take a step forward and used the custom-made Cosmos bag to cover Jiang Yingying. Then, the Cosmos bag shrank in his hand until it was only the size of a palm. It looked like a Pokémon's Pokeball. Silver Wolf held the universe bag in his palm. He could clearly sense Jiang Yingying struggling in the bag in extreme fear, but soon her struggles disappeared. It wasn't that Jiang Yingying had given up resisting, but the Cosmos sack that was specially used to capture people had a certain hypnotic effect. Once he was done, Silver Wolf and the kangaroo beside him swiftly left the scene. Before leaving, they didn't forget to cast a simple illusion technique on Jiang Yingying's door, replacing it with the one that had been devoured by the gold-devouring beetles. About 10 minutes later, Jiang Yingying gradually regained consciousness. Silver Fox had already released her from the Cosmos sack. Her eyes were blindfolded, and her hands were tied behind her back. However, she could clearly sense that she was in a car that was moving at high speed. I've already removed your muting curse, Miss Sunday. Silverwolf smiled and stared at Lotus Sunday. Jiang Yingying was speechless. No, you've misunderstood. I'm not Lotus Sun at all. That's impossible. Silverwolf. My judgment has never been wrong. Miss Sun, even if you've cut your hair short and changed your hairstyle from when you appeared on TV, we still know that you're Lotus Sunday. Do you know who my grandfather is? He's very powerful, a martial saint. I do. After all, he's the head of a corporation. Old Man Sun's strength is indeed on par with the martial saint of the 10 generals. Don't worry, Miss Sunday. We definitely won't hurt you. We just need to take you to a place and then take a video of you. You just need to tell the camera what you've done, and that's all you need to do. Silverwolf crossed his fingers and rested his elbows on his knees. He looked at Lotus Sun and said, when we're done, we'll naturally let you go. At that moment, Jiang Yingying only felt aggrieved. Tears were already welling up in her eyes, gradually soaking through the blindfold. It wasn't that she didn't know that she and Lotus Sun looked a little alike. In the past, she had even thought that this was a gift from the heavens. Since Lotus Sun could pursue Wang Ling, so could she. At least in terms of appearance, she and Lotus Sun were on equal footing. In the end, it would be up to her and Lotus Sun to decide who Wang Ling liked based on their own abilities. But now, when she was once again tied up and mistaken for Lotus Sun, Jiang Yingying felt resentful for her appearance for the first time. Why did she have to suffer like this for Lotus Sun? It clearly wasn't her fault. Doing her best to stop her tears and calm herself down, Jiang Yingying tried to negotiate with Silverwolf again. That big brother, I can tell you very clearly that I'm really not Lotus Sunday. My surname is Jiang. You really caught the wrong person. But don't be discouraged. You can always start over if you catch the wrong person. I won't blame you. In any case, you're not the first to make a mistake. But Silverwolf didn't believe Jiang Yingying at all. Miss Sun, don't pretend at a time like this. We've already checked your cell phone contacts. Isn't that Jiang Xiaoche, your driver and the current Secretary General of Huaguo Water Curtain Group? Jiang Yingying was stunned and instantly speechless. Let me tell you, Miss Sun, as long as you tell me the truth, there won't be a problem. I'll ask you a few questions first. You can draft them in your mind, so that you won't stutter when you record the video later. Speaking up to this point, Silverwolf took out his little notebook. First question. After the child was born, did you use any drugs to hasten his growth? Jiang Yingying. Question mark. Second question. How did the child come about? With whom? And when? Jiang Yingying. No, what on earth is going on with this child you're asking about? Silverwolf chuckled. Miss Sun, what's the point of pretending at a time like this? Your child can already do soy sauce. Jiang Yingying. Chapter 1750. At that moment, Jiang Yingying was still in a dumbfounded state. She did not know the cause and effect of this matter at all. She could only form a basic judgment based on her conversation with Silverwolf. First of all, she had definitely been captured by mistake. That couldn't be wrong. This group's initial target was Lotus Sun herself. Moreover, it seemed that they had captured her for the purpose of verifying certain information and using video evidence to blackmail her. Jiang Yingying was shocked to hear this piece of information, but this piece of information was a huge scandal. Giving birth before marriage, and then using methods to hasten the pregnancy after giving birth. Either one of these two things was frightening enough. But rationally speaking, Jiang Yingying didn't think that Lotus Sun would do such a thing. As her longtime rival, Jiang Yingying's first impression of Lotus Sun's character was that this wasn't reliable, and that it was most likely a misunderstanding that hadn't been verified. But now this group of people had caught her. If she had really played along and pretended to be Lotus Sun, and helped Lotus Sun record such a video, even if this matter was cleared up in the end, it would plunge Huaguo Water Curtain Group into a huge storm of public opinion. In the current online environment, there were times when fake news that might cause public outrage appeared, and the truth of the matter often wasn't the focus of the public's attention. Most people were just used to venting their emotions through this window. It was very rare and valuable to be able to remain rational in this environment of public opinion. Jiang Yingying didn't like Lotus Sun, and had always regarded her as a competitor. This choice was actually a good opportunity for her to take down a competitor. Even if she couldn't, she could at least discuss the other party for a while. But no matter how much she hated Lotus Sun, Jiang Yingying wouldn't do this. Because it was wrong. At that moment, the first person that came to Jiang Yingying's mind was her grandfather. Jiang Wuxing's teachings forbade her from doing such a despicable thing. She was worried that she would embarrass her grandfather, who loved her dearly. At the same time, she hoped that she and Lotus Sun would have a real and fair chance to compete for Wangling. Jiang Yingying didn't know if she would regret this decision in the future. But now, she had already made up her mind. Miss Sun, it's good for everyone to tell the truth. Silver Wolf's lips curled up into a smile. Jiang Yingying suppressed the fear in her heart, and tried to calm her trembling. She was blindfolded so she could not see Silver Wolf's face clearly. However, she looked in the direction of Silver Wolf's voice. I don't care who you are. You want me to tell you? I don't care who you are. Just like that, she spat on Silver Wolf's face. Trembling with anger, Silver Wolf immediately slapped Jiang Yingying across the face. Boss, you can't hit her. Otherwise, the video will show. Kangaroo rubbed his forehead, feeling helpless. Don't worry, I held my strength. Before we record the video later, help her touch up her makeup, and cover up the red marks on this bitch's face. Silver Fox chuckled and pinched Jiang Yingying's chin. Miss Sun, since you're so uncooperative, don't blame us for being ruthless. All of us brothers don't have wives. Take a guess, if they lock you up to console them, then take a video. As a young lady of an aristocratic family, do you know how many curious people would watch such a video on the black market? Jiang Yingying didn't say anything and just lowered her head. At the same time, she prayed that someone would find out that she had been kidnapped soon. She knew that it was better not to anger this group of people. Otherwise, she would really be in danger. However, at this moment, Jiang Yingying was surprised to discover that her heart was filled with indescribable emotions. Even at this moment, she was hoping that the first person to save her would be the one to do so. The face that appeared in his mind wasn't Wang Ling or Jiang Xiaoqie. Her mind was completely blank. Half an hour after Silver Wolf left, Jiang Wuxing noticed Jiang Yingying being taken away by a group of people pretending to be doctors. Because he wasn't living with his granddaughter now, Marshal Jiang had rented the house opposite Jiang Yingying's for safety reasons. He had installed what looked like a peephole on the door, but was in fact a remote surveillance device. That night, Jiang Wuxing had checked the surveillance footage to see if Jiang Yingying had returned home, but in the end happened to capture the scene of Silver Wolf using the gold-devouring beetles to break down the door. A few minutes later, Battle Sect received a notice from Huaxiao Alliance requesting that they immediately organize a thorough investigation into Jiang Yingying's abduction. In the video conference, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal personally appeared to comfort Jiang Wuxing. It could be seen that this old 10th general's face was haggard and full of vicissitudes. Senior Immortal, she's my only granddaughter. Don't worry, Uncle Jiang. Our entire sect is cooperating with the investigation on Miss Jiang Yingying's case. I believe we'll have results very soon. Miss Jiang is blessed by heaven, she'll be fine. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal comforted him. As soon as he said this, a document was suddenly handed over from a blind spot on the side. After a quick perusal, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was pleasantly surprised. There's news, Uncle Jiang. I'll now switch the video to Teacher Shoucheng, the new team leader of our Battle Sex research team. Shoucheng? That unreliable online celebrity scientist? Jiang Wuxing's face was full of anticipation. When he switched the video, it was actually showing a lotus pond. Oh, that's right, I forgot to tell you, Uncle Jiang. Because Teacher Shoucheng's body was destroyed by the villains in the previous mission, Battle Sect has reconstructed a new immortal lotus body for him, but it's still being nurtured. For now, Teacher Shoucheng can only stay in the pond and rely on nerve conduits to transmit information. Jiang Wuxing was blank for a moment, then said anxiously, So do you have any leads now? In the video, Shoucheng's voice came from the tablet computer next to the lotus pond. It's like this, Mr. Jiang. This group of people can't be found in the police's database at all, and they're completely invisible. But on my terminal, I found out that someone is tracking Miss Jiang's location through the facial recognition system I sold earlier. Your facial recognition system? It's the extra money I earned from a certain technology company, but I was worried that the system would be used by criminals, so I left it a back door. I can find their usage records here. Shoucheng said, the person they probably want to catch is Miss Lotus Sun, but for some reason, they found Miss Jiang. Given my skills, I shouldn't have made this kind of mistake. Hearing this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Jiang Wuxing fell silent at the same time. This person really didn't know anything about his invention. Chapter 1751. Even Tengu wouldn't have thought that Shoucheng had left a back door to keep an eye on them all this time, and that Tengu would know everything about the members of Duobao City's underground intelligence team. The leader of Duobao City's underground intelligence network is called Tengu. He's a wanted criminal in many countries and is very cunning. He always wears a Jason mask, but it usually isn't Tengu himself, Shoucheng explained to Jiang Wuxing. What do you mean? Warrior Saint frowned. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal continued Shoucheng's explanation. Because according to the evidence the police currently have, Tengu represents more than one person. The true identity of this leader is a combination of many elites, so the police didn't make a difference even if they caught one of them in previous operations, and the intelligence operation is still going on. Shoucheng nodded. Senior Immortal is right. The truth is that the city's Cultivation Police Department has already teamed up with the investigation teams from many countries to target Tengu, and have been secretly monitoring the underground intelligence network for many days, but they haven't found a suitable opportunity to make a move, for fear of alerting the enemy. Then, how many countries are investigating this matter? Jiang Wuxing asked. According to the current list of joint investigation teams, there are teams from 9 countries cooperating with us. 10 countries. It seems that Tengu has offended a lot of people. Yes, Lord Warrior Saint, Shoucheng said. Also, many of the teams have been appointed by the rulers of various cultivation countries to catch Tengu in one fell swoop. Speaking up to this point, the virtual image of Shoucheng on the tablet suddenly frowned. But because Tengu has been able to get away with every operation, our Huaxiao police are also suspicious of the foreign joint investigation team's true objective. Do you mean that Tengu's people might be in the joint investigation team? Yes, Lord Warrior Saint. But it's just a small suspicion, Shoucheng said. So in this operation to rescue student Jiang, I personally suggest that it's best to act on your own, and not use the relationship between Battle Sect and the police. That way the investigation team and Tengu's team won't be disturbed. If student Jiang is secretly rescued, Tengu can only suffer in silence. Got it. Jiang Wuxing nodded. Then I have one last question. Shoucheng. Go ahead, Lord Warrior Saint. Jiang Wuxing. You said earlier that the real person these people are after is Miss Rongrong. What I want to know is, why on earth are they after her? Well, Shoucheng suddenly fell silent at this question. Jiang Wuxing frowned. What's going on? Jiang Wuxing. Sunny Yuan and I are also acquaintances. Don't worry, no matter what the reason is, I definitely won't blame him. This is also something that can't be helped. It was an accident. Tengu, Elder Warrior Gu. After several minutes of silence, it was Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal who finally spoke. It's like this, Lord Battle Saint. Warrior Martial Elder. Jiang Tiguti. Elder. Ianon Warrior. In the past few days, Mr. Sun has been taking care of a child. But that child has nothing to do with Mr. Sun's family at all. Guan Rongrong. T and Gu T Tengu. The Tengu the brother Guan on S. Tengu. Tengu of Anan Ran. That's why Tengu is plotting to kidnap Rongrong and extort her for money. Contrary to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expectations, it seemed that Jiang Wuxing had known about this a long time ago. After listening to the first part of the story, he immediately curled his lips and couldn't help laughing. Senior Immortal, I actually already know about this. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was enlightened. So this is a test? Battle sect is getting bigger and bigger, and the head of state is always a little worried. Sometimes, it's necessary to test the waters. Saying this, Jiang Wuxing stood up and faced the video camera. I'm very happy that Senior Immortal told me the truth. Then, you don't need to get involved in what happens next. Using battle sect's resources is indeed a big move. So I've decided to do it myself. After saying this, Warrior Saint directly cut off the connection. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wanted to stop him, but he was a step too late. Shouchong, Senior Immortal, what's wrong? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was going to tell Warrior Saint that there are already people going to kidnap Miss Jiang. And it's all on their own. Shouchong, have they already been deployed? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal shrugged helplessly. You know, I'm just a unit of combat strength. They never listen to me. Shouchong, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. If Warrior Saint goes now, he might be able to play mahjong. It's just that Miss Rong is also going on this operation. I'm really worried that she won't be able to explain herself if her strength is exposed in front of the 10 generals. Elsewhere, as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had said, Lotus Sun was already on her way to rescue Jiang Yingying. Although she didn't know how many times she had saved Jiang Yingying, when this familiar scene played out once again, even she felt like fate was making a fool out of her. When she hadn't been so strong before, Huagua Water Curtain Group's competitors had tried every possible way to hire people to kidnap her and make trouble for her, such as Shadowstream. But now, after she became strong, this group of people would mistake her for someone else, and instead of her, they would go after Jiang Yingying. So in comparison, Lotus Sun was astonished to find that Shadowstream's comprehensive ability was stronger. At the very least, they wouldn't mistake her for someone else. Rongrong, I don't quite understand. Why did you go and rescue her? Don't you always hate that Jiang Yingying? As she rode the azure blue motorcycle that Mysterious Sea had transformed into on the Ring Highway, Lotus Sun suddenly heard Sun Yinger's voice in her head. I do hate her, that's right. Because she also likes Wang Ling. We're competitors. But there's actually nothing wrong with liking someone. It's a very normal thing to do. Lotus Sun said. Moreover, she was taken away because those people mistook her for me. How can I just leave her like that? If I leave her alone this time, I'll feel that I don't have the right to stand on the same platform as her and like Wang Ling. But what if your strength is exposed? It's fine. Lotus Sun smiled. I heard that Senior Ajwa is also on his way. Sun Yinger. Good heavens. Now they were sharing the same pot. Chapter 1752. Jiang Xiaoche got 20 million in intelligence fees by selling Wang Muyu's photo. However, not long after he left Tengu's place, he ran into another intelligence dealer named Skunk. Yes, Jiang Xiaoche didn't leave Duobao City immediately. Instead, he planned to use the newly obtained 20 million yuan to buy some insider information about stocks and funds, so that he could trade in time and avoid being taken as a leak. Skunk was a famous traffic intelligence dealer in Duobao City's underground intelligence network. He didn't belong to any force and was a very rare lone operator. However, the accuracy of his intelligence was quite high, not inferior to Tengu's. Therefore, many people were actually suspicious of Skunk and thought that Tengu had spies from Skunk's branch. Wait! Under the skunk mask, Jiang Xiaoche heard an extremely sharp electronic voice coming straight into his ears. Following that, a hand was placed on his shoulder. Sir, I've just received a few pieces of information. I wonder if you're interested? Is it related to stock funds? Or is the liquor stock going to fall? Jiang Xiaoche was extremely vigilant under the mask. Neither. But I have this information that you're definitely interested in. As long as you pay me 5 million first. If you're not interested after hearing it, I can return half of it to you. Skunk chuckled. If it was an ordinary wandering intelligence dealer, Jiang Xiaoche naturally wouldn't believe it. However, it was Skunk. He was suspicious for a while, but finally went to the underground money house with Skunk and transferred the money to the foreign account provided by Skunk. After seeing the receipt of the transfer, Skunk handed a piece of paper back to Jiang Xiaoche. The information is here. Jiang Xiaoche opened the note. There were only a few words written on it. 10 generals Jiang Wuxing's adopted granddaughter, Jiang Yingying, was captured by Tengu. This news immediately made Jiang Xiaoche's scalp tingle. Jiang Yingying was captured? What was going on? His forehead was instantly covered with fine beads of sweat. He quickly wrote on the note and asked, "Why did Tengu capture her?" Skunk saw the question and revealed a sly smile under his skunk mask. "Same old rules, 5 million per question. I see that you have a lot of questions. Why don't you charge more? If you don't use it up, I'll just push it back to you." Jiang Xiaoche gritted his teeth. In the end, he transferred another 15 million to Skunk. In the blink of an eye, the 20 million he had just obtained was gone. After seeing the receipt, Skunk nodded in satisfaction. He pulled Jiang Xiaoche to a secluded corner. "Can you tell me now?" Jiang Xiaoche was a little anxious. She has no grudges with the Heavenly Hound, nor does she have any interactions. "I know this better than you," Skunk said. "I heard that some idiot sold a photo related to Huagua Water Curtain Group." In order to verify the information, Tengu planned to capture Miss Lotus Sunday. Who would have thought that because Miss Jiang resembled Lotus Sun a little, they would actually catch the wrong person? It was the biggest joke in the world. Over the years, Tengu's business capabilities have been getting worse. "The wrong person?" Jiang Xiaoche asked. "Then will they let her go?" "This is your third question. After I answer you now, you have one more chance to ask." Skunk raised a finger. "All right. I understand." Jiang Xiaoche nodded. "Based on my understanding of Tengu's group, this matter probably won't end so well." Skunk said, "Black market intelligence is all about precision and accuracy." Although the one who made a mistake this time was only the intelligence confirmation team under Tengu. But the news of catching the wrong person has already spread internally. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sold this information to you. "Then what do you mean?" "I have a premonition that this Miss Jiang will meet a tragic end. After all, up until now, no one knew where Miss Jiang was being held. Tengu and his men had always been vicious and merciless. If they could erase her existence, then there would be no evidence left. Then we can whitewash this matter and make it a false rumor. With Tengu's reputation in the industry, I'm afraid most employers will still believe it." "Then what should I do?" Jiang Xiaoche was very anxious. Skunk pondered for a moment and simply transferred the last 5 million back to Jiang Xiaoche. "What are you doing?" Jiang Xiaoche was a little anxious. "Because I don't know the answer either." Skunk shrugged. "If you want to blame someone, blame that idiot who sold out Huagua Water Curtain Group's information." Jiang Xiaoche. "Hello, is this Senior Audiobook? Yes, I'm in Myriad Treasures City now. But how do I get in this underground intelligence trading market?" After arriving in Myriad Treasures City, Lotus Sun immediately called him. "Don't worry, mistress. I'm not your mistress. Tisk, don't you know if it's you?" "Don't worry, mistress. There's a shop owner who sells spirit plant potted plants in Myriad Treasures City. I've already placed the secret order and map of the underground city under a potted plant of a rich and powerful flower. Also, I've prepared a 9-tailed fox mask inside. Mistress, you mustn't show your real face when you enter." "Okay, I understand, I'm on my way." "Ah, by the way, mistress, please don't do anything after you enter. The most important thing is to figure out the location and ensure student Zhang's safety. If student Zhang's life is in danger, just pretend I didn't say anything." After thinking for a bit, Ajwa added, "Mistress, you can do whatever you want. I'll take care of the aftermath. But there's something else you need to pay attention to." "What is it?" "That is, Marshal St. Jiang is already on his way here. You'll probably run into him in this operation. He knows your mysterious sea and might directly see through your identity." "Okay, I understand. Thank you, Senior Zhua." Lotus Sun nodded and hung up the phone. Marshal Saint is also coming. Then what should we do?" Sun Yinger's voice rang out in her mind again. "Don't worry." Lotus Sun shook her head. "Mysterious Sea can simulate sword chi. As long as he hides his real sword chi, there's nothing to be afraid of. What's the situation now? Is student Jiang in danger?" While Ajwa was driving to Myriad Treasures City, Kamiya Ryoko, who was in the passenger seat, was also very concerned about this matter. I'm not sure at the moment, but Mistress has already gone over. She knows student Zhang's aura, and can use Mysterious Sea to search for her. I'm sure she'll be able to find her very soon. But this matter has become a little troublesome. There's actually something I didn't tell Mistress just now. What else? Little wooden fish, he ran away. Ah? Ran away? Because today was supposed to be the day Mistress went to see Little Wooden Fish. But now she's gone to save student Jiang. Little Wooden Fish probably threw a tantrum and ran out to look for Mistress. I've already told Shifu about this, and he's also on his way. Hearing this, Kamiya Ryoko sucked in a cold breath. Good heavens, she was directly good heavens. A family of 3 neat and tidy. Chapter 1753. Kamiya Ryoko felt that the operation in Duobao City this time was going to be very lively. Forces from all over the world gathering in secret wasn't something that was common. What should we do next? She had a vague sense of foreboding. This was purely a woman's sixth sense. In the end, he's just a child. It's too hard to restrain him. Ajwa shrugged helplessly, gripping the steering wheel. He was actually also a little at a loss. It didn't matter if he had to take the blame. It was his duty as a disciple to help Shifu. But if Wang Muyu was seen by everyone, he wouldn't be able to take the blame. Because even if he broke the heavens and was willing to admit that Wang Muyu was his child, no one would believe him when they saw that this wooden fish had the same face as his Shifu. He couldn't possibly say that Wang Muyu was his child. Elsewhere, with the pass that Ajwa had prepared, Lotus Sun smoothly entered Duobao City's underground intelligence trading market. It had to be said that the scale of the market here was quite astonishing. Wandering intelligence peddlers wearing masks could be seen everywhere as they tried to sell information. There were also stalls set up for public sale. This was a planned market, and the intelligence peddlers hid their hands in their long sleeves as they waited for customers in the square, archaic stalls. On the table were tubes containing information. Based on the value of the information, they could be divided into bamboo tubes, iron tubes, jade tubes, and gold tubes. Duobao City's specialized intelligence agency had appraised the tubes and distributed them according to their value. The intelligence peddlers couldn't make their own decisions. According to the normal transaction process, after payment was made, the peddler would take the information in the corresponding tube and finally hand it over to the recycling area at the exit, where a specialist would be responsible for retrieving them. It was just that the information bought through stalls or wandering peddlers was equivalent to gold mining for information, and it was possible that the information you got wasn't what you wanted. But the total amount of transactions smoothly sold through these peddlers each year still amounted to tens of billions of yuan, and it continued to increase year by year. This was enough to prove how frightening people's desire for gossip was. Today's Jade Tube discount: buy 2 get 1 free. You can choose any information you want. Today's information contains gossip about a female celebrity, and online authors are dragging out updates. This stall has the latest information on the Cultivation World's secret land. If you've drawn information about a mystic realm, I can recommend a big shot to lead the team. It's safe and risk-free, and you'll get twice the results with half the effort. This stall's information contains the home address of the author, Kuxian. If you can draw this information, you will be rewarded with 88 black iron blades and express delivery service. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. As she passed by these stalls, Lotus Sun heard a lot of intelligence peddlers shouting out their wares. It was nothing new for the intelligence trading market to set prices by the barrel. If you wanted to buy specific intelligence, you would have to go to a larger organization that specialized in this kind of intelligence. For example, the Howling Heaven Alliance led by Tengu. It was just that he had to pay a higher price. Along the way, she used Mysterious Sea's passive ability of becoming one with the sword to amplify her spiritual sense until it covered the entire underground intelligence center. Found it. In the space of a few breaths, Lotus Sun had locked onto Jiang Yingying's specific location. However, Jiang Yingying's position seemed a little strange. Lotus Sun saw an old mulberry tree at the entrance to an underground residential area. The residential area here was a place for intelligence peddlers to stay. And almost all of them were rented by people who ran this business. Intelligence was a shady business. In order to hide their identities, people in this line of work would often use multiple fake identities, and naturally wouldn't expose their real address in real life. Therefore, this underground residential area provided a very good cover for these intelligence peddlers to carry out their transactions without hindrance. In Battle Sect, the people who had the most say in intelligence were the Lord and Lady of Mo Immortal Castle, who used to be the Lord of the Castle. The two of them had a large intelligence trading network in Songhai City. Before they had been incorporated into Battle Sect, they had also had a foothold in the underground intelligence trading market. If it wasn't for the fact that they had now officially joined the ranks of the regular army, which meant that the Howling Heaven Alliance had one less strong opponent, Tengu and his gang wouldn't have been able to rise so quickly in just half a year. Strange, classmate Jiang's aura is clearly here. Under the old mulberry tree, Lotus Sun frowned. According to the positioning of her spiritual senses, Jiang Yingying's aura was right under this mulberry tree, and the positions almost coincided. Not necessarily, Rongrong, there might be something else inside. As the master of void, Sun Yinger was more sensitive to space and had more experience than Lotus Sunday. Yinger, do you mean that classmate Jiang is locked up in a layered space? There are a lot of people in this underground intelligence city. It definitely wouldn't be safe if she was directly locked up in our current main space. So she's probably using some kind of layering method, Sun Yinger analyzed. The space layering technique was based on the simplest principle. It was similar to the layering effect of Photoshop software. After setting up a main space layer, multiple layers of space could be layered below it, hiding the people, things, and things that one wanted to hide inside. In layman's terms, it was exactly the same as how some guys like to create multiple folders and hide indescribable video files. They even named the folder Study Materials. Many cultivation spells were originally designed from everyday life, and it wasn't difficult for those who had mastered the relevant spells to use them. Tengu had hidden Jiang Yingying like this, because the space layering spell was absolutely safe. Only Almighties would be able to detect it so easily. But even so, they couldn't escape the 9 cores mysterious seas probing. At the same time, in the third layer of the underground intelligence city, Silver Wolf and the others were still conducting video evidence collection on Jiang Yingying in an independent interrogation room. Classmate Jiang, I hope you can cooperate. Silver Wolf frowned. He had already changed his words, and he knew that he had indeed captured the wrong person. But right now, they had to make the least sacrifice and make the best of a mistake. Letting Jiang Yingying pretend to be Lotus Sun and record the video was the best method. Because of Jiang Yingying's capture, Tengu believed that Huagua Water Curtain Group would definitely be on their guard. It probably wouldn't be so easy to capture Lotus Sun again. Silver Wolf had originally thought that letting Jiang Yingying pretend to be Lotus Sun and record the fake video would be a lot smoother, since the two of them didn't get along to begin with. But he had never imagined that Jiang Yingying would be so much more strong-willed than he had imagined. After a long time of questioning, Jiang Yingying gritted her teeth and refused to say a single word in front of the prepared camera. Don't fail to appreciate my kindness. Silver Wolf was furious, and he pinched Jiang Yingying's chin. This space layering was created by an almighty senior. Even if your grandfather really came, he wouldn't be able to find this place. Silver Wolf snorted. He really didn't think much of Jiang Wusheng. Everyone knew that the 10 generals were all true immortals. But after Earth leveled up, the highest realm of cultivators on Earth had been unlocked. True immortals were rare. But in the eyes of Silver Wolf and his gang, who had even stronger people backing them up, they were nothing more than cabbages. Chapter 1754. As Silver Wolf said, before Earth had leveled up, a large number of cultivators had been stuck at true immortal realm for a long time. Back then, they had chosen not to level up out of consideration for the overall burden on Earth, as they were worried that the spirit chi on Earth would dry up after they leveled up, and wouldn't be enough. But after leveling up, the problem of spirit chi was easily solved, and the true immortal convention that various countries had set up back then came to an end. However, what Silver Wolf and the others did not know was that the true immortal convention was just a paper agreement. Before Earth leveled up, some of the cultivation countries were already planning to accumulate resources, so that the generals of their cultivation countries could reach the realm above true immortal realm. Trust between people was very weak these days, especially when it came to the game between major cultivation countries. They naturally wouldn't let go of any opportunity to surpass other cultivation countries and become hegemons. Take Mishio Nation for example. All these years, they had abided by the true immortal convention, but in fact, it wasn't the first or second day that they had been secretly planning for their generals to advance above true immortal realm. It was just that it wasn't so easy to advance above true immortal realm. Innate talent was an important factor in this process. So while it seemed like the generals in many cultivation countries were abiding by the rules, they actually weren't. It was just that they didn't have the talent to advance to a higher realm. However, there were still people with talent. The next realm after true immortal was venerated immortal. Of course, there were very few people like grenade-throwing senior immortal who could accidentally step into the intermediate realm between the two realms, which was true venerated realm. This was a small probability of advancement, and at the same time a manifestation of talent. Entering true venerated realm indicated that a cultivator's foundation would be more solid, and they would have the talent to attack progenitor realm in the future. But in most cases, the next realm after true immortal was venerated immortal, and their battle strength would be the same as immortal Genuines. Silverwolf thought that the 10 generals were currently still at true immortal realm, but the truth was that his intelligence was still lagging behind. While the 10 generals had been abiding by the true immortal convention all these years, they had never forgotten about cultivation. It was far from enough to rely on accumulating resources to break through to venerated immortal realm. Top cultivators needed to cultivate their minds. As long as they had a good mental state, they only needed a very small amount of resources to break through. This was the legendary strategy of lying low and biding one's time. Boom. At this moment, there was a huge fluctuation coming from the third level of the spatial layer. Streaks of divine light shot out, and it seemed as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart. The building that was used to imprison Jiang Yingying and gather video seemed to be on the verge of collapse under such a huge fluctuation. What's going on? Silverwolf's face turned pale with shock. Lord Silverfox, someone has broken into the layered space. Kangaroo, who had been monitoring the state of the space with a tablet computer, immediately replied. His face was also filled with shock and disbelief. Because the intruder was too fierce and domineering, they had clearly divided the space into several layers with absolute encryption, but the other party seemed to have already found out which layer Jiang Yingying was locked in, accurately pinpointing her location and directly entering. Use the file to stop them. We'll take her and leave. Silverwolf immediately made his decision. He tried to evacuate the dimension with Jiang Yingying and hide in a new layered dimension. But the kangaroo's face showed a troubled expression. That was because he realized that the layered space was no longer under his control. The great senior who was standing behind them had arranged everything and only given them a tablet to control everything. How many layers of space they wanted to divide into was an idiot's one-button operation. All they had to do was to click a button. But now, the kangaroo realized that the button had actually failed. At that moment, a red dot appeared on the map of the tablet computer. This was the intrusion display function of the third layered space, and this red dot was the location of the intruder. When the image on the screen was projected, Jiang Yingying also saw what the intruder looked like. It was a mysterious woman wearing a nine-tailed fox mask, holding a sword wrapped in bandages, and dressed in traditional Chinese clothing. In order to hide mysterious sea, Lotus Sun had cautiously wrapped him tightly with a special kind of white bandage. Because her face was covered and her body was covered with loose traditional Chinese clothing, she couldn't immediately recognize who it was. Thanks to Sun Yinger's patient explanation, she was able to reach the third layer without a hitch. This wasn't the first time she had experienced battle, and after several battles, she clearly knew the importance of sealing off the map to ensure that the target wouldn't escape. Thus, as soon as she entered the third layer, she immediately used the Oath of Undying Love. This was a spatial sword technique that used Mysterious Sea's power to form a contract with a specific space. It could seal off a specific space for a short period of time, making it under Lotus Sun's control. The layout of the buildings in the third layer was almost the same as in the first layer, with only a few changes. Lotus Sun moved forward and accurately locked onto the location of the old mulberry tree she had detected from the outside. A piercingly cold sword chi swept out, causing the silver fox to break out in a cold sweat. Lotus Sun walked over step by step, and at the same time, she saw countless black divine birds flying in the sky. They looked like crows, but they were a little bigger. These black divine birds coiled in the air and formed a dense vortex. In an instant, they converged like a long dragon and swooped down to attack Lotus Sun Dahm, an ancient being. Lotus Sun was astonished as she sensed that these black divine birds contained the power of an ancient being. Could it be that apart from the heartless ancestor, there were other ancient beings who had survived to this day that had been left out of the eternal corpse-wrapping painting? Her expression was calm as she stretched out her arm, revealing her snow-white wrist. Mysterious Sea, which was wrapped in bandages, simulated a kind of red sword chi that pressed down on the void. It was like a boundless, resplendent glow pouring down on the divine birds that filled the sky. There was a loud bang. The moment these black divine birds touched it, they let out pained cries. This power was simply too astonishing. She was fighting against tens of thousands of divine birds in the sky alone, and it didn't seem to be strenuous at all. Huh, what's this? Lotus Sun looked at the black divine birds that she had burned all over the sky, and suddenly stretched out her hand with the flower-pinching finger to clamp down on the remains of the black divine birds. It was only at this moment that she suddenly realized that these black divine birds were actually a product woven from black straw. As expected of an ancient being, he's truly extraordinary. Lotus Sun was secretly amazed. Each of these black divine birds had the battle strength of a true immortal. If they all swooped down in a suicidal attack and caused an explosion, their power would probably be superimposed on the venerated immortal realm, or even higher. However, it was a pity that these divine birds, which were woven from black straw, were burned to ashes by her before they could even come down. At the same time, on the other side, Wang Ling was also startled when he saw this scene, because he recognized the origin of the black straw. It was something called doomsday straw. Chapter 1755. With Lotus Sun's help, rescuing Jiang Yingying would be as easy as blowing off dust. Silver Fox and the others wouldn't be able to stop her at all. Boom. A resounding boom erupted, and the gate of the building that Jiang Yingying was imprisoned in was blasted open by Mysterious Sea's simulated red spirit light. The quaint stone gate was instantly sliced into pieces, and was neatly sliced into tofu cubes. Wearing the nine-tailed fox mask, Lotus Sun stepped in, but Silver Fox anxiously grabbed Jiang Yingying and choked her. "If you come any closer, I'll kill him." Silver Fox was truly afraid now, and his face was distorted. Heh. Lotus Sun laughed softly, completely disregarding Silver Fox and the others. Sword chi surged from her body, and in an instant, it split into several sword chi bodies that appeared behind Silver Fox and the other Xiaotian Alliance members at an incredible speed, moving like a ghost. These sword chi bodies were precise, and appeared almost instantaneously to seize Silver Fox and the others. Then they lifted their legs and directly buried them underground, leaving only their heads above the ground. His actions were completed in an instant, and Silver Wolf and the others did not have the time to react to it. This sword chi was really too powerful and incomparably ferocious. When the sword chi bodies approached, the blindfold covering Jiang Yingying's eyes was blown away on the spot. After a burst of dazzling light, Jiang Yingying was finally able to make out the newcomer's appearance. "You are? I was entrusted by your grandfather to save you." Lotus Sun stared blankly for a moment before speaking. She deliberately changed her voice, so that Jiang Yingying wouldn't be able to tell. "There are two people at my door. One is a scarecrow, and the other is also a scarecrow." At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly recalled a passage from an ancient text of literature. This text was called 10,000 Words of Writing, and was a collection of classic sayings from various great literary masters. It was said to be of great help in purifying one's mind, and even in breaking through critical bottlenecks. As for why he had suddenly recalled this passage, it was because he had seen these black divine birds woven from doomsday straws. Tens of thousands of these black divine birds were woven from such a mystical material, and it could be said that the strength of the mastermind behind this was truly extraordinary. Wang Ling asked the other ancient ones in the picture of the body, but none of them seemed to be able to think of anyone who was particularly good at using this kind of straw. This was because there were many primordial ones who knew how to weave doomsday straws. Since everyone knew how to do it, no one would pay attention to the people around them. If someone had purposely hidden their abilities during the primordial era, and only used them now, it would indeed be hard for the primordial ones to consider. This person must have hidden himself very deeply. The weaving of doomsday straws is very troublesome. To be able to weave these black birds on such a scale, this person must be at least in the ancestor realm. Then in everyone's opinion, what is the realm of the ancestor realm? Was it the human ancestor, the earth ancestor, or the heaven ancestor? Or could it be an ancestral king or an ancestral immortal? Ancestral kings and ancestral immortals are out of the question. The higher levels have a higher chance. There's no point in discussing this person's realm here. In any case, there's no way he can beat Ling Jinren. Wang Ling. I don't think it's a question of whether or not Ling Jinren can beat him. Even Miss Lotus Sun has a hard time dealing with him. Inside the Supreme Corpse winding painting, the group of primordial ones with their skeletal bodies were engaged in a heated discussion. There was no doubt that this was the truth. In fact, Wang Ling's misgivings about these primordial ones weren't because of how strong they were, but because what on earth had they done after escaping Dao Ancestor Wang's demonic clutches back then? And why had they taken the side of the evildoer? Of course, these were questions for another time. After all, Wang Ling still hadn't figured out the real reason why Dao Ancestor Wang had used all kinds of excuses to seal the primordial ones in the Supreme Corpse winding painting back then. He felt that the best way to find out was to directly ask Dao Ancestor Wang. The main thing was that he didn't have any clues at the moment, and who knew how long it would take for him to figure out the logic behind Dao Ancestor Wang's actions. But putting aside all these factors and just relying on intuition, Wang Ling felt that Dao Ancestor Wang's actions were in fact a kind of protection. Dao Ancestor Wang didn't have a good reputation now, and had always been regarded as an enemy by these primordial ones, who had been given the title of Old Thief Wang. But Wang Ling still felt that his intuition might be right. While he was thinking this, he was already in his snow-white tracksuit, and had entered the vicinity of Myriad Treasure City. Lotus Sun was rescuing Jiang Yingying, so the purpose of his trip wasn't to rescue Jiang Yingying, but to find Wang Muyu ahead of time and avoid a mishap. He realized that this little one's temper was too bad. He was usually well-behaved and clever, but in the end, he turned hostile so quickly. When all was said and done, he was still a child. Following Audiobook's arrangements, Wang Ling went to the spirit plant stall, and took the pass to the underground information trading market, as well as a raccoon mask. But just as he put it on, an old man suddenly came over to him. "Young man, which side are you from?" It was a very familiar voice. He seemed to have heard it on TV before. Wang Ling turned his head, and he couldn't help feeling a little stunned under the mask. Because the person standing behind him at that moment was none other than Jiang Wuxing himself. It was just that Jiang Wuxing had deliberately used a disguise technique to prevent others from seeing his true appearance. But how could this kind of disguise escape Wang Ling's eyes? He had also come to take the pass and the mask, and hadn't seen what Wang Ling's face looked like. When he came closer, Wang Ling was already wearing the raccoon mask. Seeing this familiar movement, Jiang Wuxing instantly knew that the young man in front of him was probably someone sent by the battle sect. Jiang Wuxing looked at Wang Ling and raised his eyebrows. "Young man, you have some guts. Are you also here to carry out a mission?" Wang Ling. Jiang Wuxing didn't say much, and there wasn't the slightest hint of a smile on his face. He immediately put on the Sichuan opera mask that the shop owner had prepared, then looked at Wang Ling. "Since you're here, let's work together." Wang Ling. He could sense the youthful vigor in Wang Ling, so he judged that Wang Ling was very young and his strength wasn't very high. It was good for young people to be impulsive, but the underground market was a big black market, and the waters were very deep. If you only knew how to charge forward blindly, that would be the behavior of a boorish man. Young man, sometimes it's good to be impulsive, but you also have to look at the actual situation. But don't worry, since I'm here, we'll work together to ensure that you'll be fine. Also, this is a rare learning opportunity. Wang Ling. After another 10 or so seconds, Wang Ling also followed Jiang Wuxing into the underground market for intelligence. At the same time, the spirit plant shop owner who was responsible for handing over the mask and pass also took off his mask. He was none other than Zhou Zi, who Audiobook had pulled along to help. After seeing Wang Ling enter the underground market with Jiang Wuxing, Zhou Zi immediately called Audiobook to report the situation. Shifu happened to run into Jiang Wuxing when he was taking the token, and now he's going in with him. Audiobook dropped his forehead into his hand. This was really going to turn into a mahjong table. Chapter 1756. Classmate Jiang, are you okay? Lotus Sun stepped forward and untied Jiang Yingying. She didn't know why, but she always felt that the person wearing the nine-tailed fox mask in front of her was somewhat familiar. In fact, when Lotus Sun had first appeared, Jiang Yingying had been blindfolded and had had the misconception that Lotus Sun had come to save her. However, in the end, this idea was instantly shattered by her, especially after her blindfold was blown off, and she saw that this person's sword chi was red, firm, fierce, and domineering. It was completely different from Lotus Sun's mysterious sea. Jiang Yingying couldn't help but laugh at herself in her heart. She didn't know what she was imagining. To actually want her rival in love to save her? This idea was a little too naive. Lotus Sun then spoke. The nine-tailed fox mask had a voice-changing function, so Lotus Sun's voice sounded very different from her original one. What's your name? Jiang Yingying asked. Lotus Sun quickly replied. I'm Wang Meili. Oh, then I'll call you Sister Beautiful. Jiang Yingying smiled very brightly. Although everyone had always said that Jiang Yingying looked very similar to herself, including Lotus Sun herself, who would occasionally fall into a daze when she looked at her face to face, the truth was that after looking at her for a long time and carefully distinguishing them, one could still tell them apart. For example, Lotus Sun found that when Jiang Yingying smiled, she looked completely different from herself. They didn't do anything to you, did they? Lotus Sun asked. Not bad, just got slapped twice. Jiang Yingying rubbed her face. In fact, for the sake of the video shoot, Silver Fox hadn't used much force. Lotus Sun examined her and used the cell phone she had prepared to contact Battle Sect to film for evidence. Then, she used Mysterious Sea's power to help Jiang Yingying heal her injuries. Jiang Yingying hadn't been able to tell that she was using Red Spirit Chi. By the way, do you know why they caught you? Lotus Sun asked as Wang Meili as she healed. Of course she already knew what was going on, so this question was just a test. They caught the wrong person. They were going to catch the young miss of Huagua Water Curtain Group. Jiang Yingying smiled bitterly. At first I said they caught the wrong person, but they didn't believe me and even hit me. Then they realized they really had caught the wrong person. So they decided to beat them at their own game. Beat them at their own game? Yeah. They seem to have some dirt on that Missy and want to take a video to prove it. He wanted to catch her, but he caught me instead. Then they wanted me to cooperate with them and shoot a video. But I didn't promise them, said Jiang Yingying. That's why I got beaten up. Lotus Sun's heart trembled at these words. Suddenly, she realized that she didn't hate Jiang Yingying as much anymore. Under such a dangerous situation, even if Jiang Yingying really betrayed her, she would also think that Jiang Yingying had been forced to do this to protect her life, so she wouldn't really blame her. But now, hearing Jiang Yingying's words, Lotus Sun couldn't help but feel upset. After a moment of silence, she asked Jiang Yingying, but according to the news from the Battle Sect, Jiang Yingying didn't even have a single soul. You said that you have a grudge with this young lady, but actually, you can sell her out to protect yourself, right? Ah, how do you even know this? Jiang Yingying seemed to have thought of something, and her face suddenly turned red. Don't tell me even my grandfather knows about this? If he finds out, I'll be screwed. Don't worry, student Jiang, the battle sage doesn't know for now. Lotus Sun comforted her. Jiang Yingying patted her chest and sighed in relief. She didn't know if it was because this Wang Meili had saved her, but she suddenly felt that this was someone she could freely pour out her heart to. She had never told anyone about these things. For one thing, she didn't dare, and for another, she felt that even if she did, no one would necessarily understand her and listen to her. But now, facing this Wang Meili who had saved her, she had an inexplicable sense of trust in Wang Meili even though they weren't very familiar. In fact, there's no grudge between us. Jiang Yingying sighed. We just fell in love with the same person, that's all. What she did to me wasn't too much. It was just that she was targeting me. If it were me, I would have done the same thing. It's very normal. But isn't this a good opportunity to step on her? Lotus Sun asked sharply. That's true. But these evil people are evil people. If I help them, won't I be helping the wicked? Jiang Yingying laughed. And in the end, this is a matter between us little girls. There's no need to use this kind of method to ruin someone's reputation. She's my competitor, and as my competitor, I believe she would never do something so immoral. Lotus Sun didn't say anything for a very long time after hearing these words, but she was moved. After suppressing her emotions, she helped Jiang Yingying with the last bit of the treatment. She then took out a small mirror and handed it to Jiang Yingying. Student Jiang, you can take a look in the mirror. I've already healed your injuries, and I've also helped you fix the red marks on your face. Thank you, Sister Beautiful. It really doesn't hurt much anymore. Jiang Yingying nodded and took the mirror. Looking at herself in it, she couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Wow. Why do I feel like my face has paled a lot? Sister Beautiful is too awesome. It's all just some small tricks. Lotus Sun said modestly. By the way, Sister Beautiful and I hit it off right from the start. Sister Beautiful is so skilled, can I learn a few tricks from you? Jiang Yingying suddenly changed the subject at that moment, an expectant look in her eyes. You mean become my disciple? Lotus Sun stared blankly. Yes, that's it. I don't know if this will break the rules of the battle sect, said Jiang Yingying. In fact, she had long since noticed the battle sect's emblem on Lotus Sun's Hanfu, and immediately knew that this big sister in front of her was from the battle sect. And judging from her hand, she was very likely an elder. If you want to be my disciple, then the battle sage. If Grandpa finds out, I'll take responsibility for this matter. He won't ask any questions, said Jiang Yingying. Jiang Yingying said, I'm a girl, and he's been teaching me hand-to-hand combat, martial arts and body arts. But what I really want to learn is fighting skills that are easier to use, just like how pretty sister swept those guys with her sword chi. How cool was that? Chapter 1757. When Jiang Yingying saw Lotus Sun use her sword technique, she felt as if a string in her heart had been tugged. Jiang Yingying's generation was often influenced by classic movies and TV dramas, such as The Legend of Sword and Knight Rider. When the protagonists in the TV dramas rode on swords and traveled to the ends of the world with their swords, almost everyone who saw them would dream of being a hero. Even a girl would dream of becoming a heroine, not just a pure magical girl. But reality was always crueler than fantasies. Jiang Yingying didn't become a sword-wielding heroine, nor did she become a magical girl. Instead, she braced herself and was groomed by martial sage Jiang as his successor. Wing Chun, Tai Chi, Songhuadan, Lightning Whip. It was actually very difficult for her to learn all of them. Jiang Yingying had always felt that she didn't have the talent for martial arts. After studying for so many years, she felt that she had only scratched the surface. It definitely wasn't enough to become the successor of the martial sage. At most, when she was old, she could open some healthcare institution and use the name of the head of some Xingyi martial art to make some money and cut off the leaks of those middle-aged and old cultivators who were trying to prolong their lives. But that would definitely be very humiliating, and most importantly, it would affect the reputation that martial sage Jiang had built up over the years. Even if she wasn't his biological granddaughter, Jiang Yingying's feelings for the martial sage were real. She didn't want to wait many years for her grandfather's reputation to be ruined in her hands. At the same time, she didn't want to lie on the sofa when she was over 50 and say things like, I'm a middle-aged man with nothing to show for it. And, I'm very regretful that I was born a human. Thus, when Jiang Yingying saw Lotus Sun pretending to be Wang Meili use her sword technique, her eyes instantly lit up. She grabbed Lotus Sun's hand and expressed her desire. Sister Meili, I really don't want to be a useless person in the future. Aren't we all chasing after independent women now? Don't say any more. I'll agree. Even Lotus Sun hadn't expected that she would go along with Jiang Yingying's words and agree. Sometimes it was very simple for girls to resonate with each other. You just had to get to the point. Even if there were grudges between them, they could instantly become good sisters and best friends. They didn't even need to go to the bathroom hand in hand or go shopping together to cultivate feelings. Then, what type of sword do you like to use? Actually, she couldn't teach Jiang Yingying anything about swordsmanship. After all, Jiang Yingying's strength was mainly due to Mysterious Sea and Mysterious Sea's passive ability. Thus, if one wanted to be unrivaled in swordsmanship, the most important thing was to have a strong enough weapon, sword. An ordinary one will do. I'm here to learn sword techniques. That won't do. Yingying, do you know that there are many types of sword arts? You must first determine your own path. For example, if you're good at using a light sword, it's impossible for you to use a light sword to execute a heavy sword technique. Oh, I see. Jiang Yingying nodded. So the great sword? Great sword. Lotus Sun was a little surprised by this choice. In truth, she hadn't expected Jiang Yingying to walk the path of a two-handed sword. Is there a problem, beautiful sister? No problem. I can also teach the sword, Lotus Sun said. After all, Mysterious Sea could imitate all kinds of sword chi. As long as she switched it to greatsword mode and had it imitate a sword technique, she could learn it first and then teach it to Jiang Yingying. Thus, Lotus Sun wasn't thinking about how to teach the greatsword at all. Instead, she was thinking about how to choose a suitable one for Jiang Yingying. There were so many spirit swords in the Sword King realm. There had to be a suitable one. When the time comes, I'll give you a great sword. It's best to nurture feelings for spirit swords as soon as possible. Lotus Sun smiled under the nine-tailed fox mask. Thank you, master. Hearing this, Jiang Yingying bowed in high spirits. We've talked so much, it's time to go out. The warrior saint is already looking for you. Don't let him worry. Jiang Yingying nodded. She then took Lotus Sun's hand and stood up, patting the dust off her clothes. What about these people? Then, she turned to look at Silver Fox and the others buried in the ground. This is a layered space. I'll think of a way to move them out. But before that, Yingying, do you want to take revenge? Lotus Sun looked at Silver Fox and asked, I remember you saying that this person hit you. I want to hit him back, but won't it hurt? Jiang Yingying asked, trembling with fear. Although it was true that Lotus Sun had killed Silver Fox in a second, he was still several realms above Jiang Yingying. If Jiang Yingying had slapped him, the one who would have been injured would have been her. That's fine, I'll just stick a layer of membrane on your palm. Stick a layer of membrane. Actually, it's just a layer of my sword chi. I see. Jiang Yingying chuckled and then rolled up her sleeves, looking like she was ready to go all out. A few seconds later, in the layered space, Silver Wolf and the others let out extremely horrifying squeals like pigs. Wang Ling realized that he seemed to have a constitution that made it easy for him to run into the 10 generals. Of course, he didn't know if it was a problem with his constitution, or if this world was really too small. But now that he had no choice but to meet Jiang Wuxing face to face, he could only follow Jiang Wuxing and act according to the situation. Wang Ling felt that it was pretty good for him to keep an eye on them. After all, what he was most worried about was Jiang Wuxing seeing Wang Muyu and not being able to explain himself. Now that Wang Ling was following Jiang Wuxing, he could secretly guide him from behind. As for Lotus Sun and Jiang Yingying, according to the first intelligence he had received, Jiang Yingying had already been rescued. But Wang Ling still didn't let down his guard. He followed Jiang Wuxing all the way to the Roaring Sky Alliance where the Heavenly Dog was. Is anyone there? Jiang Wuxing's changed voice came out from behind the counter. Very quickly, the Heavenly Dog appeared behind the counter's curtain. His expression was very unsightly, And he had probably just received news that Silver Fox and the others had been wiped out in the layered space. The Heavenly Dog hadn't expected this situation. And according to the latest decision he had just made in the meeting, the other Heavenly Dogs had already decided to give up on Silver Fox and cut all ties with him. But he still did his best to remain calm and do business with the person in front of him. "Sir, what kind of information would you like to buy?" the Heavenly Dog asked in a low voice. "I'm looking for someone," said Jiang Wusheng. "May I ask who it is, sir?" "I don't know. Boss, do you know of an intelligence peddler called Silver Fox?" "Oh, Silver Fox. I know." The Heavenly Dog nodded. "But this person already has nothing to do with our Roaring Sky Alliance. If this sir can pay us for the information, we can send Silver Fox's ashes to you." Wang Ling. He had just been dealt with by Lotus Sun, and the Heavenly Dog had actually decided to give up on its partner. Wang Ling realized. This Silver Fox might not be human, but these Heavenly Dogs were real dogs. Chapter 1758. Tengu had been too decisive and skillful in directly betraying his partner without saying anything, and Wang Ling didn't know where to start cursing at him. People who did great things didn't bother with trifles. It wasn't strange that Tengu could pull off something like a lizard cutting off its tail. Wang Ling saw that Jiang Wuxing had already clenched his fists at that moment. Actually, Wang Ling could sense that Jiang Wuxing was doing his best to restrain his emotions. From the moment he had come face to face with Tengu, Jiang Wuxing had already intended to kill Wang Ling. But out of consideration for the bigger picture, he still chose to endure it, and didn't directly make a move here. At this moment, the Heavenly Hound spoke. Its voice was calm and composed, but at the same time, there was a hint of mystery in it. "Mister, since we are fated to meet, I can give you a piece of information for free. Your granddaughter has already been rescued, so there's no point in you staying here." Hearing this, Jiang Wuxing couldn't help frowning under the mask. His visit here was a private matter, and it was impossible for outsiders to know about it. But Tengu had still seen through his identity, which made him feel that something was wrong. And he was certain. There had to be Tengu's spy in Huaxiu Alliance and Battle Sect. "Aren't you afraid?" After thinking for a moment, Jiang Wuxing warned. "Tengu, you won't be arrogant for long." Tengu wasn't afraid, and smiled back. "Whether we exist or not isn't up to you." As he said this, Tengu was actually already certain that Jiang Wuxing wouldn't choose to make a move here. While he spoke sarcastically to Jiang Wuxing, he turned his gaze to Wang Ling, who was wearing the raccoon mask. A young cultivator wearing white tracksuits and a raccoon mask. Furthermore, he had been sent by Battle Sect and was working together with Jiang Wuxing. Tengu searched his mind, and was stunned to find that he had no information on this young man. Even if he occasionally thought of something, his mind was a mosaic. Strange, what the hell is going on? Even if he didn't know Wang Ling's specific identity, he should at least be able to see what Wang Ling looked like under the mask. In fact, from the moment Wang Ling and Jiang Wuxing had walked through the door, he had already known that the person under the mask was Jiang Wuxing. This was because the senior behind the Xiaotian Alliance and all the Heavenly Hounds had already given them a method to easily distinguish the other party's disguised appearance. Neither the transfiguration spell, nor the mask that prevented the ocular spell from being cast were of any use. But unfortunately, this method had no effect on Wang Ling. All he saw was a mass of mosaics. Damn it. I really want to know who he is. Tengu gritted his teeth. After doing intelligence work for a long time, he felt as if he had an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Logically speaking, a young cultivator shouldn't have this kind of ability that could prevent him from peeping. The magic tool in his hand could easily pierce through Jiang Wuxing's mask and see his true appearance. Not to mention a young man. "One day I'll catch you." Marshal Jiang stared at the Heavenly Hound in front of him, and said in a deep voice. Because Jiang Yingying's voice did indeed ring out in his headset. It was Jiang Yingying who had called him through Lotus Sun's Battle Sect communication device. His ultimate goal for this trip was to ensure his granddaughter's safety, which was the most important thing. For the sake of the bigger picture, he could choose to endure anything else. Although right now he really wanted to give this guy wearing the Jason mask a good beating. With these words, He was about to leave with Wang Ling. But the heavenly hound suddenly grabbed his arm. Wait, Tengu. I want to know who on earth this young man standing next to you is. Jiang Wuxing and Wang Ling turned their faces almost at the same time. Question mark. After a moment of silence, Marshal Saint suddenly laughed. Is there any information you don't know? I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. As long as I'm involved in something, I have to know all the details. Tugging on Jiang Wuxing's arm, the heavenly hound said excitedly. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep. Then what does that have to do with me? It has nothing to do with you, but, after a moment of silence, the heavenly hound finally gritted its teeth. One piece of information. Tell me who he is, and I'll give you one piece of information. Any piece of information is fine. Treat it as an exchange. Hearing this, Jiang Wuxing and Wang Ling were dumbfounded at the same time. They felt that their horizons had really been broadened this time. Hee, you guys can do this? Jiang Wuxing couldn't believe it. Of course, an equivalent exchange is also possible. The heavenly hound said. Besides, I'm just a dog of Duobao City. This is my decision, and the other heavenly hounds can't do anything about it. Of course, the information you propose must not harm the core interests of our Xiaotian alliance. Apart from that, we can provide you with any other information. Hearing this, Jiang Wuxing turned to look at Wang Ling next to him. Under the raccoon mask, Wang Ling couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, but he was generally calm and at ease. He wasn't frightened by the heavenly hound's words. In fact, he was already prepared for the worst. That was, once his face was seen by these two, he would immediately erase their memories. But after taking a look at him, Jiang Wuxing actually just patted him on the shoulder and laughed. Young man, you're so young, but your willpower is pretty good. He had wanted to scare Wang Ling, but in the end, not only had he failed, he directly froze on the spot when he patted Wang Ling on the shoulder. Wait, what had he seen? Although he had only touched Wang Ling for a moment, but he had confirmed that Wang Ling had hidden cultivation potential. If his judgment wasn't wrong, he was sure that Wang Ling had a cultivation root bone that was rarely seen in 1,000 years. If he could accept him as his disciple, then there would be new hope for the successor of his martial saint's legacy that he had been looking forward to all this time. Although he had put a lot of effort into Jiang Yingying, Jiang Wuxing could actually tell that his granddaughter didn't like to copy what he did. Thus, he had long since thought of looking for a new successor. It was just that he hadn't expected to run into Wang Ling today by such a coincidence. At that moment, Wang Ling, who was stuck in the middle, looked particularly awkward. Because it wasn't just the heavenly hound, but also Marshal Jiang very much wanted to know who he was. It was the first time in his life that two men were staring at him with such fervent gazes, and Wang Ling felt his whole body stiffen under their gazes. So, are we doing this deal or not? After a moment, the heavenly hound finally couldn't help asking. I don't think so. Jiang Wuxing sighed. Why? Because I also want to know who on earth he is. The error-free chapters of the daily life of the Immortal King will continue to be updated on the mobile game bar. There are no advertisements on the site, so please bookmark and recommend the mobile game bar. If you like the daily life of the Immortal King, please bookmark. The daily life of the Immortal King mobile game bar is updated the fastest. Chapter 1759. At the same time, on the other side, Jiang Yingying was beating Silver Fox up badly. Yes, she had only hit Silver Fox because every debt has a debtor. Since Silver Fox was the only one who had hit her, Silver Fox was naturally the only one who had to pay for this debt. During the entire process of Silver Wolf being brutally beaten up, Silver Wolf's subordinates, with Kangaroo as their representative, had their bodies buried in the ground and only their heads were exposed, but the fear that touched their souls was self-evident. They didn't expect a girl at the Foundation establishment stage to be so powerful after having her palm coated with a layer of sword chi. Silver Soul's face was swollen and bruised, and he seemed to have suffered serious internal injuries. Silver Fox spat out a mouthful of blood, and the amount of blood he lost was especially large. It wasn't flowing at all, but directly spurting out like a fountain. In fact, Jiang Yingying couldn't be blamed for this. After all, when she first slapped him, Silver Fox felt as if his face had been run over by a truck. In the end, she still underestimated the power of the 9-nuclei Mysterious C. Even though the sword-light coating on Jiang Yingying's palm was only a small part of Mysterious C's power, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was a drop in the ocean. But when it really landed on Silver Fox's body, only he himself knew that kind of sour feeling. In the end, before Silver Fox completely fainted, Lotus Sun still stopped Jiang Yingying. Revenge was revenge, but it wouldn't be good if she killed him. Then she poured Mysterious C's healing sword chi into Silver Fox's body and healed his injuries. When that warm sword chi entered his body, Silver Fox's consciousness, which was on the verge of fainting, suddenly came back to him. The expression on his face was one of astonishment. These two girls in front of him were both ruthless. They actually wanted to heal him before hitting him. What kind of demons were they? Don't worry, Mr. Silver Fox. We won't do anything to you anymore. But please tell the police the truth about all the crimes you've committed in Xiaotian Alliance, Lotus Sun said. She had already informed the battle sect, but because she was acting on her own, the police and battle sect wouldn't send a large number of people over to avoid alerting the enemy. On the surface, it looked like Xiaotian Alliance had suffered a loss in silence. Her next task was to move the Silver Wolf and the others into her sword spirit space and bring them away. When he heard that he would not be beaten up, Silver Wolf breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, but he could not bring himself to be happy. There was still a gloomy look on his face. Mr. Silver Fox, do you have any other questions? Lotus Sun asked. I was thinking, even if you really take me away and hand me over to the police, whether or not I can survive is also a problem, Silver Wolf said with a sigh. Ever since he and his subordinates had been subdued by Lotus Sun, and there had been no movement from the Howling Heaven Alliance, Silver Fox already knew his fate. He knew he had been abandoned. You mean the Xiaotian Alliance will come to kill you? Lotus Sun asked. The Xiaotian Alliance is just a branch. Today, even if the Xiaotian Alliance is destroyed by you, it will fall. In the future, there will be other alliances that will become new branches and grow again. That's why I said that the Heavenly Hound is the backbone. You're absolutely right. When he thought of this, the Silver Wolf sighed and said, the Heavenly Hounds are all over the world. Unless we capture all of them in one fell swoop, the head of the Underground Intelligence Network will forever be controlled by the Heavenly Hounds. They should have already received the news that you rushed here. But they haven't sent anyone to save me and my subordinates. So you think you've already been abandoned? Yes, that's right. Also, even if you send me to prison, I might not be safe. Silver Wolf looked at Lotus Sun's 9-tailed fox mask and said, because even if you send me to prison, there's no guarantee that there won't be any Heavenly Hound people in there. The Heavenly Hound people had already infiltrated so widely? They even existed in prison? Lotus Sun frowned. She felt that this was very useful information. But as the backbone of the big tree, not everyone could become a member of the Heavenly Hound. The Heavenly Hound itself was in fact a symbol of the elite. Taking Songhai First Prison as an example, those high-level jailers and prisoners who had committed crimes with high IQ technology in the past could all be members of the Heavenly Hound. But if that was the case, the scope of the investigation would really be too wide. No wonder the International Alliance of Cultivators had previously issued a notice for all countries to keep a close eye on the Heavenly Hound's movements, and seize the opportunity to catch them all in one fell swoop. Because if they were completely left alone, and allowed the Heavenly Hounds to expand and develop without limit, they would indeed become a considerable threat. At the same time, the person behind the Heavenly Hound to be able to support and operate such a large organization probably wasn't an ordinary small fry. So, who on earth is that senior standing behind you? Lotus Sun asked again. She had already sensed that the person behind the scenes was extraordinary, and knew that it was very likely that he was also an eternal one. How could someone of my level know something like this? I just know that this senior has extraordinary means. Silver Wolf smiled and said, if you want to find out information about this senior, you have to at least catch the Heavenly Hound, and it has to be of a higher grade. There are grades among the Heavenly Hounds? Of course there are grades. The higher the grade of the Heavenly Hound, the larger the intelligence network it can operate. As far as I know, there are 10 grades. 10th grade is the highest grade. Silver Wolf said. The heavenly hounds in our myriad treasure city are 3rd grade heavenly hounds. I don't think they know much about the senior behind the scenes. If you want to know more, you have to at least catch a heavenly hound at the 5th grade. But I'm afraid you won't even be able to see a heavenly hound at the 5th grade or above. They hide very well. The credibility of his words was very high. After all, Silver Wolf and the others were currently in a life-threatening situation. If they wanted to live, they could only tell the truth. But Lotus Sun was also very curious about one thing. Why hadn't Silver Wolf and the others fought with their lives? Logically speaking, shouldn't you all be tight-lipped and swear not to say anything? Of course, we have our professional ethics. Besides, there's no one in our family for a long time. We don't have any relatives related to us by blood, so we have nothing to worry about. Silver Wolf said, Me that kangaroo over there, and the others are the same. I'm the leader of this group, and I've actually been planted with a chain curse. If anything happens to me and the curse is activated, all of us will be dead. But you're still alive. Has it been cured? That's not it. Silver Wolf's face darkened, and he smiled helplessly. Wasn't it scattered by Miss Zhang's slaps just now? Chapter 1760. At the same time, elsewhere in Mishio Nation's Glio City, a secret roundtable conference was underway in a unique metal tree-shaped building called the Wisdom Tree. This was originally a landmark in Mishio Nation's Glio City, and had been founded by a cultivator headhunting company called Suze. Suze had risen to fame in the name of balancing talent resources over the years, with the main purpose of balancing talent among the various sects, and was specifically responsible for poaching talent. All the major cultivation sects in fact had their own talent reserve plans, including the Battle Sect. Previously, Li Huaxian of the Heavenly Spring Sect, whom Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch had taken a liking to, had already been secretly preparing to contact him. The main reason why he had to do it in secret was to avoid alerting the enemy. For example, alerting a headhunting company like Suze to act as a shit-stirrer and stir things up. Of course, no one would have thought that Suze, who was famous for his work as a headhunter, was actually one of the biggest intelligence operators behind the scenes. For example, the Wisdom Tree Roundtable Conference, also known as the Full Moon Conference, gathered Tengu from all over the world. Furthermore, all of them were above level 5. When Silver Fox's sitting curse didn't take effect as per normal procedure, the Tengu quickly received news that it was necessary to discuss this matter immediately. At the Roundtable Conference, all the Tengu wore that familiar Jason mask, and the stars on their foreheads symbolized their ranks, with one star representing one rank. The Tengu sitting around at the moment all had at least 5 stars on their foreheads. The person who rescued Miss Jiang was sent by the Battle Sect. Perhaps he saw through the curse on Silver Fox's body, and took the initiative to remove the curse on Silver Fox. So it's very likely that Silver Fox has already sold us out. It's not very likely, it's more likely that he has already sold us out. He managed to survive, and in order to preserve his life, he naturally had to do this. What is Dizun's opinion? At this point, all the Tengu at the Round Table Conference fell silent. Dizun here was referring to the only 10th level Tengu among the Tengu. Almost all the major intelligence came from the Venerable Sovereign, either implicitly or explicitly. However, no one had seen what this Dizun looked like. Currently, there was only one level 10 Heavenly Hound in the entire Heavenly Hound formation. I've already sent a message to the Venerable Monarch, but I haven't received a reply yet. However, if I were to express my opinion, it would be best to get rid of the problem once and for all. That expert from the War Sect can remove the curse, and is not even afraid of the doomsday straw crow woven by the Great Senior. How could it be that easy to get rid of her? In the end, wool comes from the sheep. If the sheep is gone, the wool will become useless. At this moment, a heavenly hound with 8 stars on its forehead spoke. Lord Ba is still as domineering as ever. Another one of the 7-star heavenly hound continued. Although we have been planning to split the battle sect for a long time, I don't think this is the best time to act. Then let's vote according to the old rules. Those who supported splitting the battle sect, and those who didn't raise their hands. Finally, the number of stars on both sides will be tallied, and the opinion of the side with the higher number of stars will be adopted. Just as the heavenly hounds of level 5 and above in the wisdom tree voted, a small figure carrying a small school bag appeared on the streets of Myriad Treasure City. Wang Wuyu didn't bring anything with him. He just packed some of his favorite snacks and left. As for the reason for going out, it was actually somewhat different from the rumors. Wooden Fish wasn't a completely ignorant child. It wasn't that he didn't understand that his mother was busy saving people and didn't have time to see him. The reason why he had come here was mainly because he was worried about Lotus Sun's safety. After all, he only had one mother. If it weren't for the Star Dragon gene in his body causing trouble last night, he couldn't help but use the power of the Star Dragon to do a divination. And this wouldn't have happened today. The result of the divination wasn't very good, so he had to make this trip. Of course, Wang Wuyu wasn't stupid. Myriad Treasure City wasn't a place for children. He knew that if he appeared here in the body of a child, he would definitely attract attention. When the time came, not only would he be of no help, he might even be a hindrance. When all was said and done, Wang Wuyu's ultimate wish was to get closer to Wang Ling and Lotus Sun, and he didn't want them to hate him. Although he had previously said that if Wang Ling didn't come to see him, he would broadcast to the world that he was Wang Ling's son and so on. That was just talk, and he didn't dare really do it. Thus, on his way to Myriad Treasure City, Wang Wuyu's feelings were extremely complicated. He was only 6 years old, but he had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of maintaining a family relationship. It was really too difficult for him. Before officially entering Myriad Treasure City, he had used the dragon gene of the fat nerd dragon to swell up a little and turn into a young man. Furthermore, he was a big fatty, which was very different from his original appearance. In the end, he had only taken a few steps when he smelled the scent of a familiar person. It was his father's scent. He believed that his judgment couldn't be wrong. After all, as a combination of the Dragon Clan's outstanding genes, Wang Wuyu was especially sensitive to the perception and judgment of combat strength. He could practically convert the combat strength of all his opponents into specific numbers in his mind through his perception of their auras. Wang Ling was the only exception. Wang Ling's perception in his mind wasn't a specific number. Instead it was? That was right. It was just that it was very smart. 3 question marks. At first, Wang Wuyu thought that there was something wrong with his perception system. It wasn't until he saw Wang Ling beat up Jingzi that he realized. It wasn't that there was something wrong with his perception system, but that his dad was really strong. Since daddy is here, does that mean that mommy's side should be safe? The 3? Combat strength displayed as the big hidden boss. The moment Wang Wuyu saw Wang Ling, he instinctively felt a sense of security. He didn't take the initiative to greet him, because he had seen Wang Ling being taken away by an old man wearing a face mask. If he went to greet him now, he might cause trouble for his dad, right? So Wang Wuyu thought so. It wasn't until he followed Wu Xingjiang into the underground intelligence market that he reached Zhou Zi, who was disguised as a spirit plant shop owner. He walked over cautiously and said to Zhou Zi, "Excuse me." Zhou Zi's face was full of question marks. He did know about Wang Wuyu. It was just that with Wang Wuyu's current appearance, he had no idea that the person standing in front of him was Wang Wuyu. "Can you give me the badge you gave my dad?" Wang Wuyu asked very politely. "Dad." Hearing this, Zhou Zi was startled. His first reaction was shock, because he had never heard that Wu Xingjiang actually had a son. "Your dad is a warrior saint?" Zhou Zi confirmed in a low voice. At the same time, he carefully looked Wang Wuyu up and down. He felt that this young man looked a little familiar, but he couldn't say that he looked like a warrior saint. Warrior saint? Wang Wuyu muttered in his heart. He didn't know that warrior saint was referring to Marshal Jiang, but he knew that since he was called warrior saint, that meant that he was very good at fighting. And his dad was indeed very good at fighting. Then Wang Wuyu nodded. "Yes, he is a warrior saint." Zhou Zi shook his head. "But that's just your side of the story. That's easy." Then Wang Wuyu nodded. In the next moment, Zhou Zi felt the scene in front of him change. and everyone on the street disappeared. But it was still the layout of Duobao City. What did you do? Zhou Zi asked in astonishment. Nothing, I just divided the space into layers. This is a layered space, so it won't affect the real world. Wang Muyu laughed. Didn't you want me to prove it? My dad is very good at fighting, and so am I. Saying this, he rolled up his sleeves, revealed his sandbag-sized fists, and punched the ground hard. Chapter 1761. This punch was as powerful as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It seemed to contain a kind of ancient destructive force, and it immediately cracked the ground beneath Zhou Zi's feet. Cracks formed in the ground, and with Wang Muyu's punch as the center, the terrifying cracks spread out in all directions, forming a complicated and endless abyss. Zhou Zi was stupefied. The instant Wang Muyu punched, he was wrapped in the spirit power bubble that Wang Muyu had split open. Looking at the layered world that was on the verge of collapsing after Wang Muyu's punch, Zhou Zi was utterly shocked. His mouth dropped open. This power was too strong. It was enough to prove that Wang Muyu was Battle Saint's son. Zhou Zi even felt that this power was overflowing, and for some reason, Zhou Zi seemed to hear a faint cry from Wang Muyu's punch, as if he had been beaten up. Wait a minute. Where did this cry come from? His mind was full of question marks and he was very puzzled. Seeing this, Wang Muyu swiftly cast a restoration spell to restore the messy layered space to its original appearance in the blink of an eye. It wasn't until everything was back to normal that he scratched his head in embarrassment. Sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm afraid that punch just now made the spirit of the earth cry. The spirit of the earth. Zhou Zi couldn't help swallowing. Under Audiobook's guidance these days, he had received a lot of knowledge that was beyond a normal cultivator's way of thinking and worldview, and naturally knew about the existence of the spirit of the universe. Every time his grandmaster Wang Ling made a move on earth, the spirit of the earth would tremble for fear that it would be punched through by his grandmaster if it wasn't careful, or sent flying out of the solar system with a slap like a bowling ball. As the spirit of the earth that was in a state of fear all day long, its heart was also extremely fragile. It was a spirit of the planet that was prone to cry. Wang Muyu had forgotten that even though he had cast the space division spell, no matter how much damage he caused, it wouldn't affect the real world. But according to the principle of the spell, the damage caused by the space division spell would still be reflected back on the spirit of the earth. That was the difference. One was an external injury, the other an internal one. His punch just now was too ferocious. He didn't hold back, and the power of his punch directly penetrated the earth's core. If he hadn't heard the cry of the spirit of the earth and immediately restored the situation in the layered space, the consequences would have been unimaginable. When the sobbing sound of the earth spirit rang out, Wang Ling happened to be sandwiched between Tengu and Jiang Wuxing, who were staring at each other with blazing gazes, unable to move. Almost in that brief moment, he knew where the cry of the spirit of the earth came from. What surprised him the most was that Wang Muyu, the instigator of the cry, had in a sense, helped him out of his predicament. It's really not bad. It's worth installing. It actually supports both Android and Apple phones. Thus, Wang Ling's mood was extremely complicated at the moment. He had thought that this little guy might cause trouble for him, but he hadn't expected him to help him instead. Of course, the most important thing was, he discovered that among the snacks the little fella had brought out on this trip were crispy noodle snacks. Wang Ling's eyes instantly lit up. This was simply a kindred spirit. The cry of the spirit of the earth attracted Tengu and Jiang Wuxing's attention. Jiang Wuxing frowned and looked elsewhere. Strange, why do I hear a faint sobbing sound? It sounds like some family's girl is being abused. Wang Ling hadn't expected this third-class Tengu in front of him to actually have a sense of justice when it heard the word, domestic violence. I'll check it out right now. No matter what happened, domestic violence is wrong. Just like that, the entire topic of Wang Ling's life was instantly diverted. Later, Wang Ling heard that this mysterious cry from Duobao City was listed as one of the top 10 unsolved mysteries of the cultivation world. Even after a very long time, no one could come up with a reasonable explanation. Seeing that this plentiful treasure city dog had already sunk into a new mystery, Wang Ling quickly retreated first. By the time this plentiful treasure city dog reacted, the two of them were already gone. This was an excellent opportunity to get away, and there was no way Wang Ling wouldn't seize it. But even if he was far away from this troublesome duobao city dog, Jiang Wuxing's gaze on Wang Ling's back was still burning. Wang Ling remembered that the last one of the 10 generals who wanted to take him as a disciple was General Yi. At the time, Immortal Toya just happened to be next to him, and Wang Ling had directly used Immortal Toya as a shield. Who would have thought that after nearly half a year, he would actually run into another one? Wang Ling felt that there was something really wrong with the cultivation quality of young people in the cultivation world nowadays. There were so many cultivators in the world. How could they not find someone with a unique bone structure? As the saying went, there was no harm without comparison. If it wasn't for the fact that the cultivation quality of these young people around him generally wasn't up to standard, he wouldn't have stood out so much. After leaving the underground intelligence market, Jiang Wuxing still persistently followed Wang Ling. Little brother, I won't force you to become this old man's disciple. Forced melons won't be sweet, but this old man still hopes that you can consider it. After all, your bone structure is indeed very suitable for my Holy Spirit Fist Dao. If you can cultivate this Fist Dao to the highest realm, and open up the holy hall in your body. Speaking up to this point, Jiang Wuxing's eyes suddenly narrowed, and a mysterious expression appeared on his face as he said softly, you can subdue the enemy in one move, and kill them with just one slap. Hearing this, Wang Ling forcibly suppressed the twitching corners of his mouth. Kill someone with one slap. This was his old skill, and even if he didn't learn this Fist Dao, he could still do it. He didn't speak directly. Fortunately, the appearance of an acquaintance at that moment instantly gave Wang Ling a glimmer of hope. That person was Zhou Zi. He was also Wang Ling's newly acknowledged grand disciple. Because Audiobook had already officially linked up with Lotus Sun and Jiang Yingying, and was currently dealing with Silver Fox and the others, he couldn't free himself for the time being, so he had sent Zhou Zi over to help. Of course, apart from Zhou Zi, there was another person, Wang Muyu, who had come with Zhou Zi. Although this little guy had changed his appearance, when he saw Wang Muyu, he stared blankly. Jiang Wuxing was afraid that Wang Muyu wouldn't be able to stop himself from directly changing back to his original appearance and pouncing on him. If that really happened, Jiang Wuxing was afraid that he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. But the fact was that this little guy didn't do that. On the contrary, he was very quick-witted. He walked in Wang Ling's direction, then turned around and pounced directly into Jiang Wuxing's arms with his fat, shape-shifted body. Daddy. Jiang Wuxing was so scared that he wet his pants on the spot. Young man, don't talk nonsense. This old man isn't married yet. How can I have a son? Wang Muyu threw himself into Jiang Wuxing's arms and wouldn't back down. Daddy, do you remember second mother Tan? Tan Yuha from Chenghua Great Dao's 2 immortal bridges. This cry instantly attracted a lot of sidelong glances. Seeing that more and more people had gathered, Jiang Wuxing didn't dare continue following Wang Ling, and directly ran away, leaving only an afterimage where he had been standing. Wang Ling suddenly realized something. This little guy, he seemed pretty fragrant. Chapter 1762. Wang Muyu's appearance was a huge surprise for both Wang Ling and Lotus Sun, but Wang Ling now realized that this little guy was more quick-witted than he had imagined. If they could establish a friendly relationship, the little guy might be able to take the same path as Audiobook and take the blame for him. Not long after Jiang Wuxing left, Audiobook and Lotus Sun arrived from the other side. Audiobook knew that this wasn't the place to talk, so he took Wang Ling, Wang Muyu and Zhou Zi to a van bearing the battle sect emblem. Almost the instant the door closed, Zhou Zi saw Wang Muyu's transformed body turn back into that of a 6-year-old child. Then he threw himself into Wang Ling's arms and rubbed his head against the material of Wang Ling's clothes. Wang Ling didn't know if it was because this little guy looked exactly like him, but for a moment he actually resisted the urge to slap him away. After all, he was hitting himself. It seemed a little excessive. Audiobook and Lotus Sun were envious of this scene. Ah, There was a time when he had also wanted to rub against his Shifu's arms like this. Unfortunately, he didn't have the guts, and was very afraid that if he did this, Wang Ling would directly expel him from the sect. Looking at this scene in front of him, Audiobook couldn't help sighing with emotion in his heart. This was truly a privilege. Anyone who saw it would be envious. Even his Shifu's wife had wanted to rub against him, but in the end, a child had beaten her to it. As Audiobook's chief disciple, it was only at this moment that Zhou Ziyi realized that this young man was the legendary little dragon King Muyu. He didn't dare look directly at the warm scene of the family reunion in the back of the van, but at the part of Wang Muyu's face he saw in the rearview mirror in the middle of the van. Even though he had only seen part of the face, Zhou Ziyi was utterly stunned, because this Wang Muyu really looked too much like his grandmaster Wang Ling. No wonder he had heard his Shifu say that his grandmaster had a headache over this matter. Looking at him now, Zhou Ziyi was instantly enlightened. Wang Muyu clearly wasn't his own child and wasn't even related by blood, but he had a very similar face to his. Who could explain this? He couldn't tell others that Wang Muyu was a branch disciple of the Dragon Clan, could he? After rubbing against him for a while, the little guy finally looked up at Wang Ling. "Daddy, wasn't my performance good this time?" He stared into Wang Ling's dead fish eyes. Not only wasn't there the slightest bit of fear, his eyes sparkled instead, as if he were begging for praise. Looking at this scene, Wang Ling was silent for a good while. Because of his clumsy tongue, he didn't know how to properly praise someone. Although he really wanted to praise Wang Muyu, at the same time he was afraid that if he did, this little guy would start to get carried away. Thus, after much consideration, he stretched out his hand and gently stroked the little fellow's head. After being touched by Wang Ling, Wang Muyu's heart burst with joy, as if he was happier than if he had been praised. He hugged Wang Ling's muscular waist tightly like a koala, and refused to let go. In the end, it was Audiobook who came to the rescue and took the initiative to mediate with Wang Muyu. "Little wooden fish, don't overdo it." "I know," Wang Muyu said. "No, I don't think you know at all." Audiobook dropped his forehead into his hand. "Actually, from the perspective of our human genetic heritage, my Shifu Wang Ling isn't your father." "I know." Hearing this, Wang Muyu nodded and said again. When he said this, everyone in the car was shocked. "If you know, then why are you still blindly identifying him?" Lotus Sun was horrified. "I'm not blindly identifying him. Us dragons are born from eggs. No matter what our genes are, we only recognize the first person we see." Wang Muyu pursed his lips and teased. "That Jingza also has a mother. He's the same as Ling Yu's mother." As everyone knew, Ling Yu was a space dragon who had been captured and had defected, and had originally been under Baijia's command. Since Wang Muyu said that Ling Yu and Jingza's mother were the same, in that case, it was highly possible that their mother, or rather, their parents were Baijia. Baijia had acted as both a father and a mother all by himself. But because of Ling Yu's uniqueness as a space dragon, Ling Yu's original body had become a stand-in during the battle, and the stand-in had taken the place of the original body, thus leading to his defection. "So I'm the first person you see. It makes sense if you recognize me, but what does that have to do with classmate Wang Ling?" Lotus Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "It's true that the first person I saw after I broke out of my shell was my mother, but when my shell cracked open, all I saw was my father's face." Before Wang Muyu could finish speaking, Lotus Sun covered his mouth and choked him. He didn't know why she had covered his mouth. He was clearly telling the truth. But his mother's body temperature was visibly rising, and her face was very red. Audiobook chuckled, and then looked at Wang Muyu with a helpless expression. "That is to say, according to the rules of your dragon clan, no matter who laid the egg, the first person they see is your parents? Little wooden fish, don't you think this is a little too sloppy?" "Of course not." Wang Muyu smiled and threw himself into Wang Ling's arms again. "My daddy is very awesome, how is it sloppy?" Everyone. But Wang Muyu wasn't someone who didn't consider other people's feelings at all. Because of the cultural difference, he felt that if he used force, it might backfire. Thus, long before coming here to see Wang Ling and Lotus Sun, he had already prepared himself mentally. "I know that daddy and mommy have headaches about me." But don't worry, Daddy and Mommy, I won't cause you any trouble. Wang Wuyu looked at Wang Ling and said, from now on, I'll only call you Daddy and Mommy when we're alone. What about normal times? Just call them Big Brother and Big Sister. Wang Wuyu laughed. Hearing this, Wang Ling and Lotus Sun were a little relieved. But this time, Wang Ling also realized a problem. His problem had been solved. Yes, the real troublemaker might be Father Wang. If this little guy called him Big Brother, then Father Wang might really not be able to explain it to Mother Wang. When that time came, forget kneeling on a washboard. Mother Wang might directly ask him to borrow the heavenly Dao Durian. Meanwhile, in another van, after Jiang Yingying was rescued, she smoothly met up with Jiang Wuxing under battle sex arrangements. Immortal Toya had been sent to wait in the van early on. He knew that the person who had rescued Jiang Yingying this time was Lotus Sunday. With her around, Jiang Yingying would definitely be unscathed. In fact, the purpose of his trip wasn't to treat Jiang Yingying, but to cover for Lotus Sun and put Jiang Wuxing's mind at ease. After a symbolic examination of Jiang Yingying's injuries, Immortal Toya bowed to Jiang Wuxing. Don't worry, Martial Saint, I've already examined Miss Yingying. She isn't injured, and she's very healthy. This old Martial Saint heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Jiang Yingying with a resolute expression. Don't worry, Yingying. Grandpa will definitely fight to the death with this unlucky Tengu, and catch them all in one fell swoop sooner or later. Of course, Grandpa will definitely do it. But I really have to thank Pretty Sister for coming out unscathed this time. Jiang Yingying smiled. Pretty Sister? Is she that young man from Battle Sect who helped you save? I don't know if he's young, but Pretty Sister is really amazing. 1 against 100. Superb swordsmanship. But she was wearing a nine-tailed fox mask, so I couldn't see her face clearly. She should be a very beautiful person, right? Said Jiang Yingying. Cave Immortal. May I ask where I can find her? Jiang Wuxing asked as he looked at Immortal Toya. In reply to Lord Martial Saint, I'll have to verify this matter, said Immortal Toya. You don't have to, Grandpa. Jiang Yingying shook her head and said, Pretty Sister left me her contact information. I'll call her later. She said she'd be nervous to see you, so if you want to thank her, I can bring her a gift. AI, this old man wanted to thank her in person. Hearing this, Jiang Wuxing nodded a little regretfully. But that's fine. Girls are more shy. If I go over in person, I might put a lot of pressure on her. Yingying, you must always remember that this Pretty Sister is your benefactor, understand? I know, Grandpa. Jiang Yingying replied solemnly. Also, Grandpa, it's about Silver Fox this time. I heard from Silver Fox himself that Tengu's people are all over the world, so it might not be safe for him to be locked up in prison. When he was subdued by Pretty Sister earlier, he said that Tengu's people would definitely get rid of him. This information is very useful. We'll be more careful on our side later. Hearing this, Jiang Wuxing nodded. In fact, Huaxiao Alliance and Battle Sect had already found out that there was in fact a group of people among Tengu who weren't responsible for intelligence transmission and sharing. They were called Tengu Cleaners, and were the ones who specialized in cleaning up traces and getting rid of traitors. Silver Fox was very likely to be targeted by this group of people. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.